buddy.
Which
Oh my
one?
gosh.
Which one of those is going to get in? Who knows? We should
Who
do another
knows?
one just to be sure. Well,
Why,
hello everybody.
Hello there, General.
The beginning of the stream is getting cut off, guys. So
Yeah.
hopefully you heard all of those hello nows.
All the hello nows. Hey, instead of hey now, the weekdays will be hello now. Look at that.
My goofy hello now has kind of become part of the show.
Hello now.
Hello,
All
everybody.
Right. So, as usual, a bunch of things to talk about today. First, let's talk about the mine. Oh my God. They're sending children to the mines, Adam, to play.
Sitch and I actually had an argument right before the stream began about the mine.
We did. And I'm sure we'll talk about it now because it's actually
hilarious.
a very funny argument.
It is hilarious. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, look, the kids yearn for the mines. So what better way to keep government documents and to make all the children who yearn for the mines keep the documents, right?
Well, as long as it's all child labor, I'm cool with it.
Exactly. Like instead of having kids just wasting their time playing around in mines, spelunking, drowning, like have them actually file paperwork and be useful.
Yeah, that's great. It's like a vacation and a work and a job.
Exactly. Okay, so let's hear. We're going to play a little bit of Elon talking about the mines, and then I'll show you a video of the mines in question.
Right.
Retirement payments, everything. And then we were told, this is actually, I think, a great anecdote, because we were told the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And like, what do you mean a mine? Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government.
That's the bottleneck.
And the elevator breaks down and then, sometimes, and then nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy? There's like 1,000 people that work on this. So I think if we can take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else. And you would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way. So anyway, so I think, that's...
Wait, I want to go back. Look at Trump's expression here.
Oh, I know. This is what I told you yesterday. Trump is like bored as fuck. He's like, oh my God, what the fuck did I sign up for?
He's bored.
Can we get to the interesting part? Why are we talking about this fucking mine?
You think Trump and Elon's kid are on the same wavelength? They're both like, okay, let's get
this they both are. Yes, of course. He's looking at the kid going, yeah, I'm fucking bored too.
Goods and services of the United States.
Look at his face. He's like,
I know. Like, look at this. You guys wanted this. You guys asked me to bring him in. Okay. Yeah. I told you it was going to be boring.
Yes.
He only talks about this shit in private.
So
I'm asking him about Amber Heard, and he's going on about the fucking mine shaft.
I mean, is there really a difference between Amber Heard and a giant hole in the ground that takes a long time to go down and traverse?
I so set you up for that, right?
Where lots of records are stored.
I know, exactly. Where all the bodies are buried.
A deep, dry, cool
here's where all the skeletons go. Here's where all those suitors go to die.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, this is totally hilarious.
So this is like the classic, perfect example of, the government inefficiency, like stereotype.
Well, look, first of all, though, this mine shaft is in Pennsylvania. Obviously, Pennsylvania was super instrumental in Trump being elected. That's a fucking 1,000 jobs in Pennsylvania, right?
Oh my God, that's a good point.
How many of those people voted for Trump?
They're like, what the hell? We voted for Trump, but now he's going to close our mine down.
And now we lost our jobs.
Yes.
Now we lost our cushy mine job.
You regret voting for Trump now, miners?
Well, this is how it works. Look, this is how the government balloons up the way that it does. Because look, that's 1,000 votes in Pennsylvania, right? It is. Yes. Trump doesn't care. He's like, look, let JD Vance worry about that shit.
Right. Exactly. But no, I mean, this is, this is the classic example of government efficiency. This is a perfect thing for Elon and DOGE to try to fix, right? This is a perfect thing for someone who's done business and had to deal with large organizations to try to fix record keeping and all these things. It's like, why is this process done so insanely? And this is something that, like, there are articles from 10 years ago talking about this. This isn't like some secret thing. Like, people knew about this. And it's, why has this not been fixed? Why can't we digitize these records? Why did they be stored in a mine, Adam?
Nobody wants to waste their political capital on this shit. So it kind of has to all be bundled up into one thing. So, and look, that seems to be what Trump is doing. So,
well, I don't know. Like, it seemed like an easy win to come in here and say, government's so inefficient. They're keeping records in a mine. I'm going to fix it. Right. It's an easy, well, maybe it's not an easy win. Maybe there's some reason that it's like they can't fix it, which I don't know. No one's really explained why it can't just be done through, digital records the way every other company in the world works now.
Yeah. Oh my God. I don't know if you listen to any of the DOGE hearing, but them talking about how there's probably 20% fraud in Social Security and Medicare. Just, they don't even have normal ID that the private sector has brought in forever ago. So they have no way to check to see. Like there's these private sector checks that verify your identity that don't exist in any of the government programs. So like fraudsters can just commit fraud basically at scale.
That's insane.
Like,
that's
why does it?
Insane.
It is completely insane. They were saying $2 trillion went overseas for the pandemic stuff. Like, I'm going, no wonder we have massive inflation. Like all of our spending is on fraud.
You see, to me, like these are things that, I don't know. It's kind of, I guess, a mixed bag. On one hand, it makes sense. You want to spend your political capital on like the risky, controversial things like USAID and closing down the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and doing those risky things first. It's like, I guess you're going to expend your political capital. But on the other hand, if you go after the things that like people are all just going to agree upon, like the mine or what you're talking about now, which is, I mean, the mine is like funny and it's like kind of symbolic, but the payments, like, COVID payments, all these other things, and the treasury being totally fucked up. I mean, I'm assuming that's something everyone would agree with. Say, like, we just need to have a system in place where we can make sure these payments are, not going to fraudulent people.
Yeah. I heard this in the hearing, obviously, from one of the expert witnesses. So I'm not sure it's, obviously we're in the fog of war here, so people can fact check it. We'll see where it winds up.
Of course.
He was making the argument that the reason why, and politicians love to say this, they love to say, like, the fraud and abuse in the SNAP program, which is food stamps, is like below 1%. And he's like, the reason it's below 1% is because they never check for fraud. They literally never discover the fraud. And he pointed out an example of a guy whose wife was on all of these government programs, and the dude made 6 figures a year, and they lived in a big house with a swimming pool and shit. She's like just signing up for all the programs, all the free programs. I can't believe that they don't do the identity verification that every private business, every banking institution, every private business that you work with forces you to do constantly, right?
Right.
There's nothing like that.
100%. 100% should do that. And I do wonder if Elon Musk and DOGE did nothing but just that.
Oh, that'd be great.
Is like how much money would be saved just from that alone.
Yes, me too. So they did a bill long before the internet came into existence that has to deal with privacy. And that's what's standing in the way from them doing this. So they have to basically overturn the bill. Yeah. Okay. So it's just like, it's this giant clusterfuck. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So this is fast. So look, the thing that we were arguing about, I was like, oh man, you could totally flood that thing and destroy all the records. And
well, hold on. Let's watch. Yeah. So let's watch the this little video real quick. We're not gonna watch the whole thing.
Well, no, I think it's good before the video because this is like, you can actually see like how big it is. Like, this is obviously big, right? I didn't think it was some dinky thing, but I'm like, oh my God, there's got to be like lakes all around there, right?
Yeah. So obviously, the context is before the stream started, Adam has a theory. Okay. Tell chat, what is your theory about why storing documents in the mine is a bad idea?
Well, because it could easily be flooded. This, obviously, a mine shaft could fill up with water.
Right. And
So,
I said, well, I mean, it's a pretty big mine. Okay. It took a lot of garden hoses of water to fill up the mine. Okay.
Right. But look, see all of this plumbing along the ceiling here?
Right.
Sitch, all of that plumbing
it's all going to burst and just flood. Yeah.
Well, look, all we have to do is basically go down there with some saws and knock out some of those pipes.
Okay.
And that pipe is connected to the water source, which is probably the lake. We looked it up on the map. The lake is like gigantic. This mine is surrounded by gigantic lakes. So all the lake water then goes into the fucking mine.
There you go.
I'm telling you,
all the government documents are washed away.
They probably have one of those 1,000 people is probably a full-time plumber whose job it is to make sure the mine shaft doesn't flood. Actually, they probably have 10 full-time plumbers because
listen, we should go back in time into the 1980s, and you should pitch this idea to the G.I. Joe cartoon show writers. And there could be an episode where is like, I'm going to flood the U.S. retirement records mines.
No
one in the U.S. will be able to retire now.
So as we're arguing about this, Sitch looks up the catastrophes that take place in mines, and flooding is one of the top 10. So,
well, no, yeah, because you said you made a claim, which I was like, I don't know anything about mining accidents. You were like, I bet the number one accident in mining
it wasn't the number
floods.
one. I think the number one was like cave-ins or explosions.
Yeah, I was like,
but floods are on the list. Okay,
explosions.
I want points
poisonous
for floods.
gas. Right. Flooding was up there. It was on the AI generated list.
Look,
so
you get
like
a nasty faucet leak in this place, and you go away on a long weekend.
This whole time we've been worried about Cobra Commander flooding the records, but actually what happened was it was just John from accounting. He had the spicy taco bowl, and he stopped up the fucking toilet with his diarrhea, and now we've lost all retirement records in the United States of America.
True. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's terrible.
So let's see this place.
Okay.
Today we are at Iron Mountain's Western Pennsylvania underground campus, housing all of Iron Mountain's different product lines. We are here today to talk about...
I read books at work all day long.
Listen, you know how vigilant this man has to be to make sure that the mines don't get flooded by feces water. He's busy 24/7. Don't you insult Troy Hill here.
God, YouTube is the greatest invention of our time. I can't believe this exists.
Troy Hill, who works in the mountain mine. So obviously this is another example of the simulation.
This video has to have, Hill. This video has to have like 58 views. Well, before this was brought up, now it's probably like 2 million. Everyone's like, what's this mine?
It's still at 13,000 views, but there are like new comments.
There's
like a couple new comments.
Have fun looking for work. Hope your unemployment check cashes.
Well, they do actually, as he's going to tell us, they work for more than just the United States government.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I know Hollywood original prints are stored in a mine as well, like the original print for whatever movie they do, right? 2001, A Space Odyssey is somewhere at the bottom of a mine.
Well, see, that's what I was wondering about that because, a lot like all the movie studios and film, like Kodak and all those people, they all own or they all rent out spaces in salt mines.
Yes.
To keep film in the salt mines. And the reason is that the salt mine is because it's a salt mine, there's like super low humidity. There's like no moisture in the air.
Right, yeah.
So it's to keep the film at like tip top, it won't degrade essentially. I don't know if I was wondering if that has something to do with this. The articles I read about this, no one talked about that because this is a limestone mine. So I don't know if that has anything to do with like keeping, like, does the documents or like, are they kept in a better environment because it's a mine? I'm not sure.
Once you digitize a movie, do you really need that print? I mean, look, I wouldn't want to burn it or anything. It's a historical document, right?
I mean, maybe now it doesn't matter. Like back in the day before.
It totally mattered. Yeah. You'd always go to the original print to make prints.
Right. But also like even when things were digitized before, everything was like 4K, whatever.
Much lower resolution.
Yeah. The resolution was significantly shittier when they digitized it. So Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming now when they do like 4K remasters, I'm assuming they have to go back and they have to pull the original film print and then do.
Oh,
this
you're
like
right.
that.
You're right. So they're going to have to keep them to continually upgrade. They're going to
Right.
get
So
to
when we have
8K,
8K, 12K,
20K, a million K.
they're gonna have these film prints. Now the new movies coming out maybe doesn't. I mean, they're all digital. They're not shot on film anyway.
Oh, you're
so
right.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
So it doesn't matter.
But the old films, they'll just they're gonna have like the film copy of The Wizard of Oz from the 30s in a salt mine for till the end of time. Okay.
Nah, it'll get flooded sooner or later.
No.
About data center. The data center in Iron Mountain's portfolio in Western Pennsylvania is a very unique data center. It is underground and 1.5 miles into a former limestone mine. It supports.
I mean, look, that's a lot of space to fill up with water. Look, that's just the hallway. Okay.
Yeah,
a lot of water there.
The lakes are a lot of water.
Okay.
That's the thing. And you see these pipes running along the ceiling here? What do you think those pipes are for? What do you think's running in those pipes?
Mine gas.
No, water. I'm
poisonous mine gas, obviously.
I'm certain of. See why that pipe is so fucking thick? They're like, holy shit, if this springs a leak, we're fucked.
There's nether energy in those pipes. Okay, that's what's powering the facility.
You get some C4 up here. Oh my God. You fill this whole place with water in like 72 hours. That's a big pipe. I'm sure it's very pressurized. That lake is at surface level. This is what he say 1.5 miles down. You know how much water pressure that lake is pushing into this mine? It's over.
What is this? JR for $10. Thanks so much. Says, I don't know if you guys covered it, but I work at this mine. Look at that.
No way. Holy shit.
There's no elevator like Musk was saying. He's stupid. What? The elevator story. What the fuck? So wait,
do you drive in? Because there are mines that have like an opening and like a nice slope down into them.
Right. Is that, just let us know in the chat. Is that how it works? Now wow, that's how did he get that? How did he get that elevator?
So look, is he just making up all the, because I mean, that was a pretty good riff. I was buying it.
Right. That's really weird. How do you just come up with a random elevator story if that's not true?
All right, let's check it out.
Death
so
by
the
Sloth
elevator's not in here.
Death by Sloth says, I work for a survey company. Iron Mountain shreds surveys for us. Oh,
okay. So they they do all kinds of shit with
They do all sorts of stuff. Yeah, so I'm saying they do all sorts of private business. It's not just for the government.
Many of our high security customers, such as banks, financial institutions, healthcare organizations, and the federal government.
If you say, look, you got banks storing their records down in this mine. Right. I'm assuming they're digital records, though, not just paper records. Like, I guess if it was both, it would be fine, right? Having paper, you want to have both, right? You want to have a paper backup and a digital copy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So weird.
JR says, yes, it's walk-in, drive-in. He's making up this shit. Oh, that's interesting.
How long's the road? Because I mean, if it's 1.5 miles, I guess you can go 1.5 miles down a mountain relatively quickly, right? If you're on a mountain road.
Well, if you're car.
So it doesn't have to be that long.
They do lots of stuff down there. One of the main reasons why retirement takes long is staffing issues.
Look, an executive producer, JMac, gifted 50 gifted memberships.
Thank you so much,
new members. Yeah, exactly. JMac also has like a $50 super chat if you want to read it.
I will in a second, but JRA, here's the question. How likely is it, JRA, that the mine could be flooded by a terrorist organization dressed in snake costumes? What is the likelihood? When you're working there, are you walking around just thinking like, oh my God, this place is just like, it's just a powder keg waiting to be flooded?
Look at Sitch hedging like this. He's totally hedging. He's hedging because he's like, look, it's got to be snake costumes. Obviously, that's exactly. Impossible.
I'm obviously, if it's going to be an Islamic terrorist group, that's a very high likelihood. I want to know the likelihood of people in snake costumes. Okay.
Well, it sounds like if the federal government stops spending money on this mine, the 1,000 people are not going to get fired because they're working in the private sector as well. So that's good. They might lose the government contract, which of course the government contract pays 10 times what the private sector pays. So it's going to be a big loss.
Right. J Micro Circuit Fire, thanks so much for the $70. Oh my God. Thank you so much. And the 50 gifted subs says the early chatter gets the membership, as the saying goes. That is
Oh,
true.
yeah, definitely.
And J Muck also says, did you guys see Elon talking about the waste of time spent in online training? Anyone who
Yes.
served in the military is intimately aware of the amount of bullshit classes that one has to take. I take a class each year to learn not to sexually assault people. Well, I mean, did it work? Did it help you? Right?
Yeah. Oh,
That's a
God, I
real
hate
question.
those classes. I hate those
Yes.
online
Yes.
stuff. I did see it. I saw that some funny guy from the military made a video talking about how, oh my God, don't take care of, don't end these stupid programs that they have in the military. I learned so much from these. Obviously, he's being sarcastic the whole time.
Right.
Though. And Elon Musk retweeted it. So, and even Elon Musk said, yeah, I have to do that stupid shit too. Which is like, what? Can you imagine?
Well, it's all like, there's some problem in the military. Like I remember, like it was like 20 years ago, there was some documentary that there's couple documentaries that came out that were talking about like very high rates of sexual assault in the military.
Right.
And I don't know if that was true or not. This is what the documentary said. And so then people look at that and they're like, well, how do we fix that? And then, I mean, they implement changes, but some of the changes are these like really stupid, you sitting through a class that tells you not to rape someone, which I don't think I'm just guessing. I don't think that's the way to go about it. I don't know how much that's going to change people's behavior. So
zero.
Yeah.
Well, the type of person that's going to do something like that, zero, right? And it's just going to waste the time of all the people who'd never even think of doing something like that.
Yeah, it's like a checkbox thing. Like, oh, well, listen, we did our due diligence. We made people sit through class and told them not to do that. It's like, oh, thank you.
So when the sexual assault happens, they have some plausible deniability.
Right. They did it even with our classes? Those monsters.
I know. Losers.
If you are a high compliance or high security need organization, this is the place to be.
High security, Adam.
The Western Pennsylvania facility is a city underground.
There's a road.
It has many of the same things that a city would have. It has fire and rescue teams and a store. It has enough fuel storage to last 72 hours without having to refuel.
What's that fuel made of? That's what I want to know. Is it flammable? I bet it is, because look at those fire trucks.
It's non-flammable fuel, obviously.
No.
It's top secret.
You don't have 2 fire trucks down there because you're working with non-flammable fuel. What down there looks flammable to you aside from the fuel?
All the rock. Yeah. Everyone knows limestone is a very flammable material.
This is actually the set for the Acolyte down here. This is the place. This is the place that burned down.
Oh no.
Further and further into the labyrinth, which is the facility, we reach the data center portion. There are more than 6 different challenge points before we hit the data center. These challenge points and these extra gates help with security and compliance.
You know what those gates aren't going to keep out?
Me.
Water.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like,
These fools! You can't keep out water with a fucking chain link fence. They need like blast shield doors, okay?
Yes, waterproof blast shield doors.
Yes.
The 30-foot thick limestone and 200 feet of stone above the facility lead to natural weather protection, and the ambient temperature of 53 degrees helps the facility remain cool.
I could not work in a place like this.
I'd be wearing a jacket, like cold in there.
I'd just be, oh man, I'd constantly be thinking about that roof caving in on me.
Really?
What a terrible way to die that would be, under a bunch of limestone rubble.
I mean, if it's been there for like 100 years and it hasn't caved in yet.
There could be an earthquake though. You never know.
I guess that is true. There are earthquakes in Pennsylvania, I believe.
Are there really? Oh my God. Yeah.
Because I remember there was the big thing. Because I remember there was the big, I don't know if any of this was true, but I remember when they started fracking in Pennsylvania, people were complaining that it was causing earthquakes.
Oh, really? Oh, shit. Yeah.
I don't know if they're naturally.
Imagine being down there in an earthquake. You'd be like, run!
Run where?
Iron Mountain works with our customers to design the space of their needs. Whether it's what you can see over my shoulder, cage material, or solid steel wall, Faraday enclosures, or coops, Iron Mountain is there to support those customers.
Look, you can make a Faraday cage in a mine. Okay.
I know this is insane.
This is good. So when like China shoots like the EMP to try to knock out America, it's like, no, no, no. Our stuff's in a Faraday cage in a mine, bitch. You ain't getting our important electronics.
You got all your good digital equipment down there.
Yes. Okay, we could stop watching about the mine stuff.
Well, I am curious here. Oh, they got data servers down there?
Yeah, it's not just paper records.
Look at that. Oh, it's
and then they talk about they have solar panels and wind.
That's how it's all. Oh, really? It's all
green.
It's all wind efficient.
Well, I'm sure it's not all
carbon neutral. Wait, I saw an elevator.
They use like there's another. Wait, go back.
They do have an elevator.
To the water. That lake can sustain.
Well, it's the elevator to get to
they're talking about the lake.
Water. Yes.
Sustain 10 megawatts of heat coming from these facilities.
Look, it's already half full of water in places. That's right. They got pumps running 24/7 to keep that water from rising.
No, it's already over.
As it stands today. As we've shown you on this tour.
Is that their water supply here?
No. In Western Pennsylvania, 100% of that power is coming from green sources. Additionally, this facility is very unique. All of the cooling goes back to an underground lake. We pump and transfer the heat from the crawl units that you see beside me back to the lake and then pump that heat into the water. That lake can sustain 10 megawatts of heat coming from these facilities as it stands today.
That's pretty cool. So that's how they cool the servers. The server heat goes into the lake and cools down. That's pretty badass. Yeah.
Can they use, now here's the question. Can they use the heated water as like hydroelectric power?
I don't know. I remember reading that Google came up with a ship that basically they were going to put all their servers on because it could be in international waters and the ocean water could cool the servers and whatnot. But I don't. Piracy would always be an issue, so I don't know if
you think piracy and weather would be kind of
big storm,
right?
Destroys your ship. Exactly. Oh, sorry, no Google searches today.
Yeah, it's like what?
That's pretty cool. All right.
Okay.
So we learned about government inefficiency, and it actually turned out to be a little bit cool.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like. It's funny because everyone focuses on the mine. I don't know if the mine part isn't the inefficient part. It's just that it's on paper that's inefficient. Like if it was in servers in a mine, then who would care, right? If it's all done digitally.
Yeah, I'm more interested in this is a thing, and it just seems like Elon is a good guy to do this just because he has the technical knowledge to do it. And I think we talked a little bit about his algorithm. Like his algorithm, the first thing is basically question everything. Like I can imagine the new people coming in from the administration. Well, actually, there probably are no Trump appointees in here. It's probably just they have a contract with the federal government. The federal government just pays. And
yes,
it's the same people doing the same thing over and over again. Like Elon Musk is out there looking for inefficiency so he can trim the budget. He's super worried about the deficit. And he wants to do something about it. Why not go? Seems like the easy money is in actual fraud. And it takes this annoying argument that the left keeps making about, is that actually fraud though? Or is it just waste? It takes that off the table if it is actually fraud, right?
That would be true.
Yeah. So they should just go for the big thing. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Politically, it looks better, right? Then they can't say, oh yeah, that actually is fraud. This just seems like waste, right? It doesn't seem like fraud.
Well, even if they go after waste that everyone agrees is waste, I think that's still a win.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going after the
fraud is the big win though.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Well, I don't know. Depends.
Saving a little bit of money on record keeping and like ending, like it's a twofer because you get to say, look, we're tough on crime. We dealt with these criminals and you save the money.
Right.
That's the thing. If they're talking about $2 trillion that went out in illegal government payments on something, they can tax that shit back at 100%. They need to track the money down and just fucking shut it down. Put the people in jail.
Right.
It's weird though, because that money probably went to buy a bunch of stuff, right? Obviously, if you're stealing millions of dollars, you're at the Bugatti dealership the next day, right? So the Bugatti people have to eat it on the car.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. How much can you really get back?
Yeah.
Because it's probably not just sitting around. I mean, I'm sure a good chunk of it's sitting around somewhere, but a good chunk of it's, spent on things. So,
yeah.
Okay. Mary Supers, and then we'll move on to the next story. Cameraman502 for $2 says Doge delved too greedily, too deep. That's true. That's the real concern, Adam. We've been talking about flooding, but the real concern is there's a Balrog chained up in the basement that they use for the energy source. They power the whole servers.
Wow.
Alex
Demon
Quast.
power.
Yeah, exactly. Alex Quast for 10 Canadian says Elon is literally forcing the miners to learn to code. There you go. Exactly.
Wow.
Jonathan Smith for $5 says have to realize Elon can only get the information he's given. Someone might have told him about the elevator. Also, elevators could happen deeper in. I mean, I guess it's just. I mean, I'm sure there's elevators in the mine somewhere, right? Is it true the whole thing? Like, people could only retire as fast as this elevator speed comes. I don't know. That sounds like very hyperbolic and silly, but
yeah, it seems like he was doing a thing that we often do on the show, where we just start saying fanciful things because it's funny, right?
Well, I guess the difference is that we're two assholes on the internet.
I know.
In the White House, standing next to Trump, talking to the national media. So,
but look, can you imagine us like doing our routine like in the Oval Office?
I don't
know that I could resist. I probably would be doing this shit.
We need to increase the security tenfold at this mine to make sure that the Cobra commanders can't flood it. Okay, this is very important.
Are we protected from flooding though?
Yes.
That's what the American people want to know.
Exactly.
I hear there's a lake in there. How stable is the water level on that?
Right.
Will climate change affect that water level?
Can we have an exploratory committee to make sure that the Balrog being chained in the basement is actually secure?
Yes. Right. We don't want any of that evil demon spirit energy to escape into the Pennsylvania landscape.
No. Or worse, the federal records.
See how easy it is to do, Sitch? Oh my God. And Elon's like, look at all these reporters. Boy, I'm going to tell them about the elevator shaft.
There you go.
Elon, he literally bought Twitter so he could joke around on Twitter more.
Maybe that's why Trump had that expression. Memes. He's like, oh my God, Elon's doing his retarded stand-up routine.
I know.
Maybe that was the problem. He's like, oh God.
He did this at Mar-a-Lago and everyone booed.
Yeah. J-Backer, second fire for $5. Thanks so much. Says, no, how do you think I met my wife?
Oh, there we go.
Watching
sexual assault.
The essay videos. Yes,
I didn't know you were Muslim, Jay. When isn't Islam where when you rape the woman, she becomes your wife? That's how you actually.
Oh my God! I was like, what? Where are we going?
When you rape the woman, you get the option to marry him. I think
that's good. As long
that's why we want. What do they want? Jihad in America? No, it's not jihad. What's it called? The Islamic law.
Oh,
Sharia law. There we go.
Okay.
Sharia law in America.
Mahaviz for $5 says, I've been team make America
healthy again.
Oh, healthy again. I was wondering what the H is. Since I first heard about it, I'm very interested in food health, but I may be biased. Well, it's great. I mean, obviously you want to be healthy again. Though it's funny because whenever because I'll hear RFK or someone talking about health, and then I'll hear from the next room, Sammy, like, they're wrong about this. She'll explain in very specific detail about how whatever they're saying is incorrect. And I'm like, okay.
I believe RFK has been confirmed. Tulsi Gabbard, I think, has been confirmed. I think Kash Patel
is not.
Is still waiting.
And I have a story that we're going to talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, so he's wait. There's going to be a full Senate vote, and I think obviously Kash Patel is going to make it. They wouldn't have pushed him this far unless he's got the votes.
Mm-hmm. M8566 for $5 says thoughts on President Musk. When I voted for him, I didn't think he'd win. LOL. I mean, I was surprised too. I was very surprised.
The President Musk thing. So much of the campaign was. Musk was a part of though, so it doesn't seem like this is like a sneak. This came out of nowhere type situation.
No, I don't think it's an effective attack. Well, I mean, it kind of is and it kind of isn't. I don't think it's effective as of yet for the left to attack Musk because it's like, yes, I mean, a big part of Trump running, especially in the last month or two, was Elon and Doge. So it's not like you're right. It was not a surprise.
They called it Doge before the election even started.
But here's my prediction, because everyone's like, oh my God, when is Trump going to throw out Elon? When is there going to be breakables? Blah, 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 blah. I think those people are completely misreading the situation here. I think Trump is using Elon, is the one using Elon, because essentially it's like, let me pawn off this stuff to Elon. Elon's going to be the face of this, so that if it succeeds, then Trump gets to say, look, I got this guy who knew what to do. I'm so smart. Look at me. Everyone's going to praise Trump and Elon.
And if it fails, he's like, that dumb fuck.
Yes, if it fails, Trump is going to throw Elon under the fucking bus so fast and be like, oh my God, look at Elon. Elon was in charge. He's the one that did all this shit, blah, blah, blah. Like, so it's actually a pretty smart move from Trump's perspective.
It is totally. From a political perspective, it's great.
Right. Magor for $5 says, next time you're doing sexual assault training, pull out your moral foundations and figure out which one the training relies on the most. I assume it would be almost always
care
harm.
Yeah, care harm. Maybe a little disgust.
Right. Grendel Vat, thank you so much for the 50 gifted memberships.
Wow, look at this. Holy moly, we got like 100 new members.
Yes. And also for being a member, a Free Will Seeker for 24 months, says Golden Pyramid, and I got my comic shipping info yesterday. Well done, boys.
That's great.
That's great.
I think there were a few shipments actually delivered today too. So
right.
And I dropped some off, and they never got scanned. So hopefully they don't lose them. But if they lose them, obviously I'll make sure you guys get a comic. Don't worry. Let me know.
Magor for $2 says, spoiler, it's mostly authority. Sexual assault is illegal. Really? That's crazy. I would not have expected that.
Really?
Ineffective way, I would imagine. Blinky the Toast for $5 says, just because they have a data center down there doesn't mean the retirement process can't use paper. The mine elevator could still be a bottleneck. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I would say that what they should do is it should be digitized, and then all the paper stuff should be done backup, so that like you could still, they could be doing whatever they're doing digitally, and they're just making sure that all the paper stuff is going to back it up at the end of the day. So,
right. Yeah, they're doing it backwards, where you need to get some sort of hard copy before the person can be dismissed, when it should just be some digital copy. And the hard copy backup can be there in 6 months after they're long gone and on to their next job.
Right.
But look, I honestly don't think people are going to get fired from this.
Well, I don't know if it's anyone's specific fault, like a specific person, or just
do we know how much
around to modernizing.
No, do we know how much of their business is the federal government? I guess that's the real question.
Oh, you mean Iron Mountain people?
Yeah, if their business is 50% the federal government, then they're probably fucked. Well, no, they just scale back, fire half the workforce.
Okay, this was I sent you a news article to bring up here. So it's kind of interesting story. So Bloomberg, basically everyone reporting this, it says plans to buy armored Teslas vanish from State Department procurement.
Oh, yes. Right. I was curious about this, because this is the first thing that's popped up that could actually be a conflict of interest.
Right. So people were concerned because there was something from the State Department's procurement forecast which said that they were planning on buying $400 million, or giving $400 million for Elon to develop some sort of armored electric vehicle, armored Cybertruck sort of vehicle, essentially. And obviously this would be a massive conflict of interest, because it's like, well, what the fuck? Elon is in charge of like going through all these government grants, and he's cutting things left and right. And then his company gets this massive grant for $400 million. So there's been some reporting on this, which is interesting. It says the State Department's procurement forecast removed, so they removed yesterday, the mention of Elon Musk's Tesla Inc. in relation to a planned $400 million in armored EV purchases after reports emerged about it on Wednesday. The December version of the document had included an armored Tesla budget item that would span 5 years and start in 2025. However, the document has since been revised to remove Tesla's name. This followed reports of the company's moniker on the procurement document from Drop Site News and the New York Times.
This is so fascinating, because they're like, look, it's government money. Let's get some of those fucking cool Teslas.
Yeah, right. So right now, essentially, the $400 million is still there for armored electric vehicle purchases. They just removed the name Tesla. So it just says armored electric vehicles.
Right.
It also says in the same document that BMW AG, who has armored X5 and X7 SUVs, was also on the list of things to buy. So it wasn't just Tesla. Now,
yeah, they have these in third world countries. Like all the rich people have armored vehicles and shit like that. Yeah.
Right. So Elon Musk responded to this on Twitter saying, or on X saying, he's pretty sure. He said, I'm pretty sure. I like he says pretty sure. I'm pretty sure Tesla isn't getting $400 million. No one mentioned it to me, at least. Well, I'm glad he's pretty sure that that is not going to happen. Now,
some salesman has probably been working on this for months now.
I know.
He's like,
and they're like,
fuck.
I know. Now, to be fair to Elon, this did say that this was from the December version. So that would have mean that this happened last December before Trump. It was after Trump won the election, but before Trump was actually president. And so, and I mean, you could say, and I think it's probably true, that whoever made this decision made it, it wasn't Trump that made this decision or anyone in the Trump administration. So that would be a point in Elon's favor against this being some sort of like nefarious double dealing situation. But obviously, it should be investigated.
Right. I don't know how the sales are on Cybertruck, so I don't. I don't think
I now recognize the gentleman.
Oh no.
All right. Keep going.
Elon is always saying, he's not in it for the money. He's in it to better mankind and all that kind of stuff. And he did make all of his patents for his technology open source, so anyone can use them. So there are things that make you think he's not going to lose his mind over losing a government contract. I think he could lose his mind if it was make or break for the company, obviously. Like, it's like, he doesn't want to lose his company. So it's easy to be like, I don't give a fuck when you're selling a bunch of Teslas, but I don't know his sales numbers.
Well, I don't know if it's a question of like, I want money because I want the number of my bank account to increase. It's more like, I need money so that I can do what I want to do, so that my companies can do what I want to do, which obviously that can still lead to just as much corruption or bias or anything.
It can.
And it was funny because actually, I was listening to Sagar today and he was saying, he thought this whole notion of like people now saying, oh, you can trust Elon or other rich people because they're already rich. He's talking about how like ridiculous this is, because all people do is talk about like, no one trusts, the rich, greedy banks and business people. And it's like, okay, well, suddenly now we're supposed to trust them just because they have a lot of money, when it was like the opposite of that for the last, 20 years.
Yeah, the part of the equation that they're forgetting is the tens of thousands of people Elon Musk needs to make payroll for. So
yes,
like it's not like he just has all this money and he doesn't have responsibilities, right? All those people depend on him. So
it's dictator's handbook. Yeah, it's not just I need a bunch of money to sit on a pile of gold like Scrooge McDuck and swim through it. It's I need a bunch of money to pay all these people underneath me to do a bunch of things I want them to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So
he doesn't want SpaceX to fail. He doesn't want Tesla to fail. Look, he wants Tesla to come up with a humanoid robot. That's like the real prize.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a video. This is a representative talking about the conflict of interest between all these inspector generals being fired.
This is a hearing that they were talking about the fraud, the actual fraud, not the waste that's being pitched as fraud. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene is the chairman of this committee, which is kind of interesting.
That's kind of hilarious, but okay.
So I've watched a bunch of these, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, like, as soon as their time is up, your time is up, your time is up.
Yeah, well,
some of these people
do
that. The Grassley guy, I let people wind up and finish. Like, he let that one person go over like a minute and a half, and they bitched at him for not jumping in. Marjorie Taylor Greene is like, I'm not gonna let anyone go over. I am starting to hate that Crockett. Oh my God, she's so bad. Yeah, I think it's Jasmine Crockett.
Oh yeah.
The representative. Yeah. Oh God, she's so fucking bad. She even when she spoke, she even said that Trump allegedly won the 2024 election.
Wow.
Yeah, look, election denial.
Okay, but let's talk about what is the Office of Inspector General, because it's probably something that most people never heard of until recently.
Mhm.
So the Office of the Inspector General is just like a generic term that refers to a division of the federal or state government which has oversight into looking into whatever the organization is to make sure they're following the law, they're not doing anything corrupt or illegal or whatever. So you know how like internal affairs like looks into police to be like, oh, did they wrongfully shoot someone and they cover up evidence or whatever. The Office of Inspector General is essentially that, but for their own organization. So for example, they'll be like an inspector general for the agricultural department, for the education department, for the defense department, for the energy department, for all these different departments. And I'm supposed to look into these departments to try to ferret out corruption.
Okay. So internal affairs type situation is a good explanation.
Yes. Right.
And how's that connected to this subcommittee?
So he's going to talk about, because Trump tried to fire, or did fire, I guess, because some of them are actually trying to save their jobs in a lawsuit, whether it's legal or not. Trump essentially tried to fire 18 of these inspector generals.
Right. Okay.
Who are supposed to ferret out corruption.
And they have an office and staff and all that?
Right.
Okay.
And from Texas, Mr. Kassar.
This subcommittee is supposedly about looking into waste, fraud, and abuse. So I'd like to start talking about independent inspector generals who are supposed to be looking into waste, fraud, and abuse. Mr. Talcove, do you know how many inspector generals at agencies that were investigating Elon Musk's companies have been fired by the Trump-Musk administration?
No.
It is 5. Ms. Royal.
This is great because the whole time I was listening to this guy, I was like, is this true? Like, what were they investigating Elon Musk for?
Right.
I kept wondering, is it like they were going after Trump for anything? Or were they actually investigating him because they had probable cause and
he was doing something
he was doing
wrong?
Right. Insane shit. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Do we know? I mean, I just listened to this yesterday, so I don't know okay.
Right.
He's just like, they're investigating him. Well, he's got to be guilty then, obviously. He's being investigated, so.
The Inspector General of the Department of Labor had 17 open investigations into Tesla and SpaceX. Do you know what the Trump-Musk administration did to that Inspector General?
No.
They fired him, and I think y'all know. Mr. Whitson.
See, and he doesn't say what they were investigating him for.
Well, he probably doesn't even know.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, holy shit. Well, what were they investigating him for? Was it murder? What was it?
I don't think it was for murder.
Was it ethnic cleansing?
I don't think it was for ethnic cleansing.
Genocide? What were they investigating him for?
I'm just taking a leap of faith here. I don't think it was for ethnic cleansing.
Were they investigating him for illegal parking? Not paying his parking tickets? That's kind of important information, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Inspector General of the Department of Transportation was investigating Tesla. Do you know what the Trump-Musk administration did to that Inspector General?
No.
They were fired. The Department of Defense's Inspector General was looking into SpaceX. Mr. Hedler, do you know what the Trump-Musk administration did to that Inspector General?
They fired his ass.
I believe he was fired.
Thank you. I think everybody on the panel knows what the answer to these questions were. The U.S. Department of Agriculture Inspector General was investigating Musk's Neuralink. Mr. Talcove, now I'll ask you again under oath.
Look, if there's anything that should be investigated,
it's
that fucking Neuralink. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, come on.
Like that thing should be investigated the whole fucking time they're working on it, right?
Yes.
There should be an ongoing investigation into any procedure that drills into people's fucking skulls.
So you're on board with the investigation of Neuralink. Yeah.
Of course. Look, this caught my attention, obviously, and I kept waiting. I'm like, well, what were they investigated for? What were they investigated for? What were they? I was like, holy shit. Now I got to call Sitch to ask what the fuck they were investigated for.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea.
Do you know what Mr. Trump did to that Inspector General that was looking into one of Musk's companies?
No.
He was fired. The Inspector General at the EPA was repeatedly taking on Tesla. Mr. Hedler?
Look, you'd think he had some information there, right? Repeatedly taking on Tesla. That's different, right? Not just
Right.
investigating. Taking on. What do you mean
does that
taking
mean?
on?
Right.
Like they had some employment disputes? What was going on? What happened? Union busting? You got me on the edge of my seat here. Mr. Caesar.
Since it seems that you're answering the questions that everyone knows the answer to, do you know what the Trump-Musk administration did to that Inspector General?
I believe he was also fired.
Also fired. At least 5 Inspector Generals that were looking into Elon Musk's companies were fired by the Trump-Musk administration. These Inspector Generals, who are independent, protected by law, they are the people that find the waste, fraud, and abuse and found many of the cases of waste, fraud, and abuse that have been brought up today, fired because they were looking into Elon Musk.
Look, what's going on there? It sounds like he knows the waste, fraud, and abuse that these companies were committing.
Well, he's
not sharing it with us.
Right. Well, he's this is where I think he strays into the realm of like, you know, he's like a lying, or he shouldn't be framing this way. Because like, obviously, if you have, you know, 5 of the Inspector Generals have open cases into Elon Musk, and then, you know, they get fired as Elon Musk is, you know, taking over important swaths of the government, that needs to be looked into, you know, that needs to be adjudicated and looked into in some sort of objective, nonpartisan, very transparent way, so that people can, you know, have faith in the system, obviously. But I mean, you can't say as of yet that they were fired because it was to protect Elon Musk, because we don't actually know.
Yes,
you know, what was going on there.
Of course. Look, and he's making these broad allegations. I just want him to come out and make the allegations. Like, what did Elon Musk do? Look, you got my attention. What did Elon Musk do? What were they investigating him for?
Right.
Until you tell us that,
I know
we can't really make a judgment here.
Well, I can't tell you.
Maybe they were fired for drumming up fucking nonsense. Maybe they were investigating him for bullshit.
Well, I can't. So when I was trying to look into this to see, like, yeah, what are these investigations into the Elon Musk? There's only one that I could find.
Okay. Oh, nice. Okay. What do we got?
So it says this is from last December. Elon Musk and his rocket company SpaceX has repeatedly failed to comply with federal reporting protocols aimed at protecting state secrets, including by not providing some of the details of his meetings with foreign leaders, according to people with knowledge of the company and internal documents. Concerns about the reporting practices, particularly about Mr. Musk, who's SpaceX's chief executive, have triggered at least 3 federal reviews, and 8 people with knowledge of the effort said. The Defense Department's Office of Inspector General opened a review into the matter this year, and the Air Force and Pentagon's Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security separately initiated reviews last month, people have said. Now,
okay, that's not good.
The Defense Department's Office of Inspector General is one of the people that was fired.
Right.
Okay, so this would be a clear, like, definitely needs to be investigated, because you have some very public investigation opens up into Elon Musk, you know, the end of last year. And then what do you know? That guy's fired as soon as Trump becomes president.
Right. And that touches also on the biggest conflict of interest that Elon Musk has that I worry about. China.
Yes. China and SpaceX. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like, he's in bed. Like, a lot of people just, they don't trust Elon Musk around China at all. They even see Elon Musk as a Chinese asset, which, I mean, obviously that is very scary for us, completely scary for us. So why wouldn't he come out and say that? That makes his story like 10 times more salacious. I think, look.
Yeah, it's not good.
This guy sucks.
Yeah. Well, that's always the case with this stuff. The Air Force has recently denied Elon Musk a high-level security access, citing potential security risks associated with the billionaire. Several allied nations, including Israel, have also expressed concerns that Elon Musk, could share sensitive data with others, according to defense officials.
Yeah, they're worried about China. Look, and Elon Musk is probably playing both sides with China because he's terrified of the artificial intelligence stuff.
Well, also, I mean, you know, he has a lot of financial investments in factories and things in China himself. So he does have a lot of financial, you know, money tied up in China.
Yeah.
Too. So
He's probably over there for a do-gooder. Like, the Chinese pollution is so bad. He's like, we're going to have everyone in electric vehicles, and
Well,
China's going to be cleaned up.
You hope it's for do-gooder reasons, right? But this is why you need to investigate this stuff. And it looks super bad when the person investigating it gets fired. And you're like, oh, okay. That's pretty shady.
It seems, oh God, I guess, I mean, he'd be totally in the leading a double life psychopath realm if he's going to sell the Americans out to the Chinese. Oh my God.
Well, I mean, you know how people work. They frame things in their minds in specific ways to justify them. So it's probably not going to be like, Elon Musk sitting there, assuming the worst case scenario. It's probably not going to be Elon Musk sitting there like, ha ha ha, I'm selling up, America to China. It's going to be more like, I'm just doing something to further, my ability to put humans on Mars because that's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe he's just naive. I mean, this is part of my issue I have with, I think, a lot of Elon is it seems like people just say shit to him on Twitter and then he just reposts it and says, wow, that's really bad. And he just believes it. And you're like, well, I mean, shouldn't you investigate that? You shouldn't just be reposting what a random Twitter account told you.
Naive is exactly what I mean by the do-gooder hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
He's naive. Yeah. So shall we continue?
No, there's nothing.
Okay. Yeah, he never
gets in the deep.
You actually get added more detail than he adds, and it's funny because what he's trying to do here just comes off as partisan wankery without the information that you just gave, which he could have easily included, right?
Yes.
So thank goodness he's actually a dumbass. This is
I mean, we see this whenever we watch any of these government hearings. It's almost always they'll say like something very general. You go, that sounds bad, but can you give me specifics? And they never do. And I don't know if it's because they're trying to like shove in a bunch of stuff in their limited time, which I think is a waste of time. It's better just find like one thing that's really like incendiary and stick with that.
Well, no, if he lined up all the people that got fired and say this is the only one that we know the only one that's suspicious, but then it implies all of them are suspicious.
Yes, it could.
What he is trying to do, he did a terrible job at doing.
Well, yeah, I agree. And because like a lot of times when I looked into the story, most of the stuff I find is just stuff talking about this interaction. They don't actually talk about what a lot of the inspector generals are looking into. So, but open the door for other reporting to look into it. So I guess we'll find out. Okay. There was some parts of a Breaking Point video that I found interesting, which I think you saw. So we can watch some parts of that.
I sent it to you, the Crystal versus Sauger.
We're joined now by...
Oh, yeah. This is really good.
It was this one, yeah. So this is again, and I know it's kind of annoying that so much of the conversation has to be about Elon, and this, I think, part of Trump's technique here is that Trump has sort of using Elon as this human shield, essentially, because that's so much of the conversation now is about what DOGE is doing specifically. So,
yeah, and obviously, it's adding to Trump's gravitas in that he's getting so much done. Like, it's just, it's easy for him to sit back.
Yes, yeah.
I think I don't know if they mention it on here, but I listened to some show and they were talking about Trump not wanting to engage in any of this. Like, Trump is not a number cruncher. Like, you think he wants to be doing the things that Elon is doing? Hell no.
No.
Yeah. Trump is going to delegate and do speeches. So I think the political strategy on the left, and specifically with Democrats, is just, it's so insanely out to lunch.
That's not good.
Act like financial institutions. One of the things that he proposed just in his final days in office was a rule against debanking. This is basically that your financial institution can drop you as a
company. Okay, so what he's talking about is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and how it was removed. And it was really weird because you had, Mark Andreessen famously goes on Joe Rogan and says, we should get rid of the CFPB. And when Joe Rogan asks why, he says, well, because they're debanking people for political reasons. And then it turns out this is like a complete lie. It's like,
Yeah.
it's completely, and it's weird because like I was listening to Mark Andreessen, he's done, and he said things and I'm like, oh, I like that. But then he says this, and it's such a bold-faced lie, and I can't imagine that he's just misinformed about this, because this is a guy who like runs one of these like giant, money management funds, and they invest in all these like fintech and crypto and other shit. Like he has to know that what he's saying is not true. He has to have enough knowledge about this to know it's just completely untrue, because not only is the CFPB not involved in debanking people, especially for political reasons, but not involved in debanking, they actually had the guy who was the head of it under Biden, as this guy is saying right now, they were actually investigating, or they were calling out PayPal, because PayPal in 2022 wanted to cut people from their service for their political speech. And the CFPB was like, no, you can't do that. That's fucking crazy. And they're actually were trying to institute a new rule to prevent debanking from occurring for political reasons.
Yeah, this is another place where there's a conflict of interest with Elon Musk, because Elon Musk has said that he wants Twitter to become like a banking type platform as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a story about that afterwards. We'll talk
which is probably going to have some regulatory hurdles that he might be obviously trying to get out of the way of.
Right.
This is, I hate this story because it appears that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is a good institution. The kind of thing that you really want to keep around. Like I said, I think I was joking about it on our last show, that this is the institution that Trump would use to cap credit card fees at 10%, something that he made a campaign promise to do.
Right.
So
customer based on your views, or what you use your account to fundraise for, or what you've said online. And this was remarkable because it was kind of politically conciliatory. It's not just good policy, but in a way you have here someone from the progressive wing of the Democratic Party taking on a practice that mostly has been used against right-wing activists, like PayPal debanked an evangelical fundraising site that was raising money for January 6th defendants. Canadian truckers who protested the COVID mandates were debanked at the behest of the Canadian government. In Britain, Nigel Farage faced debanking for a while from his financial institution, which is called Coots. Anyway, it was something that the right was exercised about, and he just with a very swift rule that says customers cannot be dropped based on their exercise of free speech, would have put a stop to it. Now, that's not the only thing the CFPB did. It did lots of good things, but Musk had said that the CFPB must die, and sure enough, he did it. Not just Musk, by the way. Mark Zuckerberg also went on Joe Rogan's show complaining about why he's getting oversight from the CFPB. Well, it's because they track their Facebook users' financial transactions and stuff. They surveil people, and so they're acting more and more like a financial institution. As Chopra himself told me, it's not that we are encroaching into big tech; it's that big tech is encroaching into the financial system.
What's up?
Zuckerberg did the same thing when he was on Joe Rogan, which again, I have to assume that Zuckerberg is lying, and where he was like complaining about them. And he made it sound like the reason the CFPB was going after Facebook was because like the government wanted them to delete posts or something, which CFPB has nothing to fucking do with anything like that. And it turns out it's like, no, it's actually because like Facebook wanted to start its own cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well then if you're going to do this and you're going to manage all this financial like stuff, then you're going to be under, these different sets of regulations and all these other things. And then they get all pissy about it. And then he goes on Joe Rogan and essentially lies about the reasoning behind the whole thing.
Yeah, they want him to get FDIC insurance and stuff like that, so people's money is protected. And
right.
These fintech banks don't have any of that.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
And it's crazy. And maybe we'll watch it. I don't know. Maybe we'll watch it next week. Like Patrick Boyle had this video that was all about how there's all these like emerging fintech, like neo bank, quasi bank financial like things that are being developed nowadays. And people put their money into it because they think it's safe. They think it's a bank or something. And they don't read the fine print, or maybe the company's even lying. And they end up losing all their money.
Yeah.
Completely.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's like, what the fuck? And then they complain, and they have Mark Andreessen and all these
Who do
other
they
people
go to?
complaining about like the government trying to regulate these things that protect, people from getting, fleeced. It's like crazy to me.
They go to this institution that they just killed. That's who they go to when they
Right.
lose $200,000 in some online bank that really isn't a bank.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a lot of people are running these things, though. So that's why they're incentivized to just say, fuck it. We don't
Well,
want
that
your
was
complaints.
it was interesting thing too with if you watched like the whole conversation with Mark Andreessen on Joe Rogan. At first, Joe Rogan is like, because Mark Andreessen was a guy who was like a huge Hillary supporter in 2016. And then he makes this like massive flip flop to being this Trump supporter. And Joe's like, well, why did you do that? Like, why the big flip flop here? And at first he's like telling some story about how, he was at a restaurant and some, Hispanic waiter was like telling him that he's a Trump supporter. And he's like, oh my God, if the Latinos are supporting Trump, I got to rethink it. But then like later in the interview, Joe, like he was pressing him on this and he's like, well, the actual reason is because the Biden administration like was like came out as very hard trying to regulate crypto and fintech. And it's like, oh, okay, so you switch sides because of your financial incentive. It had nothing to do with, some sort of moral position about politics or because you thought wokeism had gone too far. It's just because you wanted to make money and you didn't want to be regulated by the government.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mark Andreessen too went on Rogan to complain about CFPB, talk about how it was debanking people, and the debanking, I think, point is a great entry into your piece and to the whole conversation, because privately, Andreessen and the others, I don't think actually would be satisfied by what Chopra did at CFPB with his debanking rule, because it said you cannot debank people for ideological reasons, but of course you can still debank people for being drug traffickers, or for working with cartels, working with sanctioned organizations. Like there's it's called Know Your Customer, and it's one of the things that some elements of Silicon Valley have been so hostile to, this idea that you have as a financial institution some responsibility to know who your customer is and whether or not they are just whether you're dealing with El Chapo. They hate that. They think that that's an encroachment on their freedom to do Bitcoin commerce or whatever, and
to do child trafficking.
Yeah.
To like bank for child traffickers, right?
Right. Well, I remember this is like 10 years ago or longer. There was this huge scandal with the big bank HSBC because it turned out that like a large branch, I think in like Texas, was knowingly, doing money transactions with drug cartels in Mexico.
Right.
Like, and they completely knew about it. And there's this whole system set up for them to like drop the money off at the HSBC bank in this like super shady way. And like they end up getting fined like millions or billions of dollars for all this stuff. It's disgusting that this
Those
stuff
have got to be big customers, though.
Right. But that's the
They got to be
problem
making
is
a lot of money off those accounts.
right. And that's the problem with all this is that it's like these, like the fines on these banks should be much higher than they are, and that people should go to jail. And that's the problem is that a lot of the banks do this shady, deceptive stuff because even if they, risk paying some fine, no one's going to go to jail. They're going to pay a fine, which, at the end of the day is probably going to be in the drop in the bucket. So it's still worth them to try to do something illegal.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's kind of crazy.
Debanked. He's doing this kind of two-step where he's trying to make Rogan's audience think that these Silicon Valley tech founders were debanked because they supported Trump or because they said something critical of like George Floyd or Black Lives Matter or something. When in fact, if you look at each case, it's like, oh, like they were, they were moving crypto for a cartel. And so
Okay, let me jump ahead here. Watch one more clip here.
Elon wants to create an app out of X that is not just a social media company, but a kind of everything app like they have in China with WeChat. So it's your payment system. It can do all sorts of things. And CFPB would have brought scrutiny to bear on what he was doing on the financial side of it. And he says, kill it, and it is done. That's very disturbing. Another one, which I mentioned in the piece, is what's happening in the...
Yeah, so, because I looked into this, because I didn't know if there, like, was this just something that was planned, or was it actually going through? And there's an article from the AP from this year, January 28th, so recently, where it says X is teaming up with Visa to soon offer a system of real-time payments on the social media platform, signaling some progress and a years-long vision from billionaire owner Elon Musk to create an everything app.
Yeah, I've heard about this forever.
Right.
This what he was talking about when he renamed it to X. That's
right.
why he
Yeah.
wanted to move away from that.
He'd been talking
branding.
about the everything. Yeah, he'd been talking about the everything app for a long time, but now we see that he's actually made headway in that by teaming up with Visa to try to do this exact thing.
Oh yeah.
And so
Twitter keeps changing.
And this is kind of the problem, is that, again, this is what, people talk about, the conflict of interest. And we're going to watch some of the clips of Trump and Elon talking about these conflict of interest and what they're going to do about it, and whether that seems good enough or not. Is it's like, okay, Elon basically at least takes credit for shutting down the police agency that's supposed to be policing, the banks and the financial institutions and things of that nature, at a time where he wants to basically open up something that would be policed by those individuals. And obviously it seems like a massive conflict of interest. It seems massively sketchy, especially when he doesn't provide any information about why are they shutting down the police department anyway? Why are we defunding the police here when you don't even explain what the problem is with the police?
So many people have like a buyer beware attitude with financial stuff. They they don't proceed. They think financial institutions should be able to just fuck people over. And if you're not smart enough to read the fine print and know what you're getting into, then you deserve it. You deserve to get your money stolen from you. This is the thing that made me hate Vivek. Vivek did that debate with David Sachs. And it's really weird. Both those guys you'd think would be like, screw the consumer, right? But no, Vivek was like, screw the consumer. And David Sachs was like, whoa, why? Like, we don't need to do this. And it was over the Silicon Valley bank run. Remember the bank run that took place at Silicon Valley?
Yes.
Over some sort of internet meme or rumor or something like that. Never should have happened. Like, there's no reason why the Fed cannot provide liquidity for that situation and people don't have to lose their money. But there are people who are fucking hardliners who are like, no, if you have over $250,000 in an account, you lose everything above $250,000 accounts. When these are businesses that probably have like 5 million in payroll a month. Like, you're going to split $5 million up among how many accounts is that at 250,000? Yeah, you're going to manage like 100 accounts just to do payroll. Like, it's ridiculous. Talk about adding complexity to something that should be totally simple because of this stupid fucking FDIC rule. That's just, it's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. But look, people have a weird concept of money, and people, they enjoy seeing other people get screwed. They're like, fuck you. You have a $5 million in the bank. You deserve to lose it all. That's like their mentality.
I think with the specific example you're talking about, I think you're right. And it's funny because I actually had a conversation with Sammy about this the other day, but we came to a solution. But before I get to that,
which side of this call? Sammy was saying, no, tell me she's not on Vivek's side.
Well, I'll tell you in 1 second, but I think with the Silicon Valley thing, I think the fact that it was Silicon Valley, which people perceive as like left-wing politically, adds to sort of the way in which people will perceive the information and decide what side they're going to be on.
Look, I wouldn't care if it was Iowa Valley Bank, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But putting that aside, because you're right, there's a lot of people who basically have an attitude of like, well, if you are stupid and you get screwed over, that's on you. And I mean, I disagree with it because I don't want to, we shouldn't be setting up a society where you're basically saying, oh, well, like a bunch of smart bankers who either are, higher intelligence or just higher experienced get to just rip and steal money off of stupid people or people that are not stupid, but just don't have the experience dealing with all these like complicated financial instruments. To me, that's like an insane way to set up a system to say, oh, well, everyone is just, a sheep to the wolves that are bankers to be basically get ripped off by. That makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah,
it's
completely short-sighted. Like one of the things that makes America great is we're a high trust society, which means commerce can happen easily, right? So you want to create a low trust society where commerce doesn't happen easily, where everything is done through fucking bribes and shit like that, like these third world shithole countries. Like, why would you want to do that? And this is the kind of situation that builds a low trust society, right?
Right.
You put your money in a bank, and then the next thing you know, you lose $200,000.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to spend money on anything. You're not going to do anything. Yeah.
Right. Then it's fun. Maybe we'll talk in some time in the future about the whole Trump pausing the making it illegal for American companies to bribe foreign officials, which is interesting. But no, so I was having this conversation with Sam about this, and she was more on the side of like people should just be aware and not get screwed over. And so, but I came up with a solution. I said, okay, here's what I think. We can cut all the regulations and say it's a buyer beware situation where if you get screwed over by some financial institution, that's on you, and there's no government regulation. Okay. I'm totally fine with that. If a person who does get screwed over is allowed to murder the person who screwed them over financially.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. That's it. We're right on the road to that third world society I was talking about.
There you go. If that's allowed, then I'll say, okay, then you could get rid of the regulation.
Yeah.
So
God, people used to be on the same page that society has to have a level of safety, right? Mm-hmm. Financial protection is the same as protection from violence, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. It's just violence of a different kind.
Yes. Well, I mean, so much of it's just all, it seems like it's so much just filled with whatever the politics are, because it was really weird. Because at first it was like the Democrats were really big against the big business. And then it kind of like flip-flopped in the DEI era, where then the Republicans became very much against big business and the big banks because they seem to be in the pockets of the left. And then now it seems like there's kind of another flip-flop occurring where it's like, well, no, now it's going to go back to like, well, maybe big business and big banks aren't so bad. It's like, okay, what are we doing here? Right. Like,
God, it is a little terrifying because it's such a turn. The opportunity to have legitimate fraud and waste ferreted out of the government is just, I mean, that's a dream come true. Yeah, right. Exactly. But then turning it into, oh my God, we're going back to the gold standard and the fucking crypto bros are going to run our money supply.
I know. It's like, Jesus Christ.
It's like, holy shit, you missed a bunch of fucking fraud here.
Well, and that's what's weird too, because it's like, there was this weird court case. I don't understand all the legal specifics of it, but there was a court case that essentially ruled that crypto rug pulls were legal.
Really?
Like,
holy shit.
Which is like totally crazy. And that's how Hawk Tua can like get away with this bullshit. And it's like, why? Like, this would be like a perfect thing for Trump or Elon. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Trump doesn't want to do it because he has his own fucking meme coin and he's so heavily invested in crypto shit now. But this would have been like the perfect thing to attack, to be like, no, rug pulls are illegal. You can't do shenanigans like this.
It's just not properly advertised. Like, if they advertised it as gambling or the lottery or something like that, I'd be totally fine with it. I'd be like, okay, that whatever money you put into this thing, you're bound to lose. But the way it's marketed as like, this is a big investment. This is going to be your future. And it's
not. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Well, there are so many of these Bitcoin billionaires who have to be working behind the scenes, right? Because they have an investment that they're trying to turn into tangible assets like real estate, commodities, stock.
Right.
Yeah. And I just don't, I feel sorry because I think sooner or later it's all going to go bust, but the same way the .com bust happened, the same way the housing crash happened, the Bitcoin crash is inevitable.
The National Labor Relations Board. So President Trump came in and he dismissed the general counsel of the NLRB. That's quite expected because President Biden did the same thing to Trump 1's general counsel. But then he also dismissed without cause or notice, as required by both statutory law and Supreme Court precedent, one of the members, Gwynne Wilcox, who can only be dismissed for malfeasance or neglect, causes like that. And there's no indication that she's done anything like that. And also with notice, and she didn't receive notice. Now, what that does is basically the NLRB needs, under Supreme Court precedent, needs a quorum in order to actually uphold labor law, to enforce the Wagner Act or the National Labor Relations Act. Now, this happens against the backdrop in which Elon Musk and one other of the oligarchs who stood on the stage at the swearing in, namely Jeff Bezos of Amazon, have launched a lawsuit to declare the National Labor Relations Act unconstitutional altogether. Now, that's a drastic legal argument, and it's questionable whether even with a conservative Supreme Court, they're going to be able to kill the National Labor Relations Act, which is the fundamental labor law in this country. But, you know, is there a better alternative? Yes, basically to cripple the agency, which is what happens when you remove its quorum. You know, local NLRB offices can still investigate and so on, but when it comes to an actual labor dispute where the board as a whole has to uphold collective bargaining, it can't do that. And what I've heard is that they intend to keep things that way, essentially crippling the agency.
Unions are at an all-time low, so I really don't know how much power the unions have anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know
these are
about
just
that situation.
Right. But
I
no,
don't know
this-
anything about that agency.
Right. But this is just another one of the conflict of interest problems that we kind of have arising here. You know, I don't know if we're going to have a situation that we kind of had with like Obama and with Bush Jr., where it's like there's kind of like a fervor where the Democrats supported Obama, the Republicans supported Bush, and then like 10 years down the road, people are like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done that. Maybe the things that those presidents were doing weren't so great. You know, it seems to be like this is like the reoccurring pattern that we kind of live through, unfortunately.
I do think there is part of it is the ideology. I don't think it's necessarily nefarious. Not with everyone, obviously. There could be some people who have nefarious intentions, but I think there's a kind of naivete in the same way that there's naivete around defund the police. Like a lot of people think defund the police are the ones causing the problem, and society will just join together. Everything will be hearts and unicorns if we can just get them out of the way, right?
Right.
That's the same kind of ideology that says we just need to get all of this regulation taken out of the way and just let business do what business does. Business will self-police. But it's not the reality. Like someone comes up with a business that's like, here's how I steal money from fucking hundreds of thousands of people, right?
Right.
And fuck them over. And when they call me on the phone, I say, yeah, your money's gone. I got it. Fuck you. Right? Yep. That's the real world. It's the same with defund the police. It's like the real world is there are criminals. They want to break into your house. They want to break into your car. They want to fucking steal your shit. Okay. That's the real world.
Yep.
So it's this naivete. Like,
no, that is the perfect comparison. I'm so glad you made it. That is the ultimate perfect comparison. The left is like, we got to defund the police because the police are the ones causing all the problems, right? The police are like somehow making the communities poor, somehow making people do criminal activities. And they're like operating on this completely naive notion that if you get rid of the police, all the crime is going to stop, right? And what happened? They defund the police. Oh, crime increased. What a fucking
murder
shock.
goes up, fucking shoplifting goes up, everything goes up.
What a fucking surprise. You get rid of the police and crime goes up. And then this is like, it's weird because this is the right-wing version of it. It's like, well, if we get rid of the financial police, well, then all the banks are just going to be totally fine. They're going to stop committing crimes. Businesses are not going to commit crimes, but they're going to police themselves. It's going to be fine. It's going to be great. And it's the
Housing
exact
crash
same
2.0.
scenario. Yeah, exactly. It's the literal exact same scenario playing out. And it is weird. It is weird that more people don't just see what's going on. It's clear as day.
They can't. They don't want to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you want to listen to Elon talk about the debt stuff because he just has kind of like the very standard debt view that like everyone has. So
I think we've talked before, and I like the debt thing is complicated because I do think right now we need to reduce the debt because we have inflation. And obviously the ceiling for the debt is inflation happening.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a situation where you have inflation, you need to lay off the spending.
Right.
We're in that situation now. So, but a lot of people, obviously, when we have low inflation, low unemployment, the economy is screaming, right? We're doing great. Everyone's buying new shit, brand new cars, brand new homes. They're still bitching about the debt, right? They're like, oh my God, we're 25 trillion in debt. Well, the debt is only a problem if there is inflation. Inflation is the limiting, the barrier. The actual debt, I mean, it's not really a thing.
Right. So yeah, the debt is a problem now because inflation is a problem and also because interest rates are too high.
Right.
Like, so those combined factors make the debt a problem. And so the goal would be to get inflation and interest rates back down, as opposed to the framing of this, which, I mean, Elon adopts this framing, which I think, we both think is completely mistaken.
Well, they take it straight from the business community.
Well, yeah, but even from the business community, like, I think they're just wrong. They're operating under, I think, the more traditional but incorrect view of like, oh, the country would be better if there was zero debt, if the government had zero debt.
Yeah.
Which would actually be a complete disaster, but
yeah, you'd be recessions for days.
Right. So, okay, so we'll skip that.
It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country, and it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
And also,
see, look, I completely agree with that. Like,
yeah, that makes sense.
The debt is high, which means the interest payments on the debt are high because interest rates are high.
Right.
That's all decided by committee, the Federal Reserve. And if the Federal Reserve just lowered interest rates, which they could do tomorrow, then those payments wouldn't be as high.
Well, that's the problem. The Federal Reserve has if you believe the MMT perspective, has a completely wrong idea about interest rates.
Well, if the MMT people are right about interest rates,
yes. Right.
There's two opposing factors. So obviously, when you lower interest rates, people are incentivized to take loans. Private loans expand the money supply in the same way that government overspending expands the money supply.
Right.
So obviously, if you lower interest rates, you're going to stop the interest payments, which is going to stop this government spending there. But you're also going to have a bunch of people that are like taking out private loans, and the money supply is going to expand that way. So that's kind of the two forces that the Federal Reserve is trying to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And the MMT people say that the people taking out loans is not really a factor because people don't take out loans unless they're going to engage in some sort of economic activity that's going to raise productivity, right? People don't just take out loans because money's cheap, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. People
so they think it's a non-factor.
Right. Because the way to think about it is, as long, like, if a private business creates money through a loan, or like, a bank
takes out money through a loan. Yeah.
Right. Or the government, gets money by creating debt. Like, as long as the productivity they create is worth more than the money value, then it's not inflationary.
Right. So
if
a business takes out money and makes more hamburgers, obviously more hamburgers makes the price of hamburgers go down. But if the government spends on some transgender comic book, I don't know.
Well, yeah, of course, right? Maybe that's probably doesn't.
The productivity might not go up, right? It might just be a
I don't know how many people are making and selling and buying transgender comic books, right?
So, but that is the argument why people are saying, well, let the private sector expand the money supply as needed, because they're also creating productivity, and on the government side, you're not necessarily creating productivity.
Right.
So the problem is, if you take the money supply down to zero, which would be zeroing out the debt, then the only money out there is going to be money people owe to banks and some sort of loan, right?
Right.
That's not really feasible.
Well, then also, you sent me that video. I forget the guy's name. That was that economist who was saying, he was tracking the upticks of inflation And he was saying that they're not really based around government spend on government printing money. It was really based around
Private.
when price
Yeah.
goes up for a non-inflationary reason, like there's, you know, an oil shortage or some sort of supply chain issue, then that causes the prices to go up. And then people have to take out more money to spend on the high cost goods. And so you could have a situation where like the Fed is like, well, we need to keep interest rates high to get people to stop taking loans. But then it's like, well, people need to take out loans to buy all the expensive shit. So it's just going to not really reduce inflation, right, at all.
Yeah, consumer credit card debt is probably at an all-time high because people are literally putting groceries on their credit cards.
Right.
Which is like insane. I'm glad that video, you like that video, because that is such a unique, interesting perspective. Most people will not accept that perspective just because it's hardwired into people that printer go burr, and that's what causes price inflation.
Right.
So
I mean, he could be wrong. Just he had data.
He could be
and
wrong.
It makes
Yeah.
logical sense. So I don't know.
Yeah, the data he has is there is plenty of times when the money supply is shrinking, but you still have price inflation.
Yeah.
But every time you have price inflation, the money supply is growing.
Right.
So,
You mentioned some of the things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about 30 million,
Right.
etc.
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that you know there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, you know, what happened at USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But
see, this is like regulatory investigations, though, right here.
Right.
Right? What has this any different?
This is the good stuff. This is what you want, is to be like, okay, we're looking into these specific things, these specific people. This is like the thing that I'm on board with.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people would be like, their libertarian moral intuitions would kick in and they'd be like, the government has no right to know where I got the money from.
Well, no, they'd be fine with it because he's talking about looking into government workers. So as long as you're looking into government workers, that's totally fine, right?
Right. They got a mean side hustle going, right?
Yeah.
I just think like a lot of this stuff is largesse, like large salaries for cushy government jobs. It just seems completely political to me.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I would imagine anyone, I've never personally done this, but using a vibe check here, I'd imagine most people who have been involved in like getting government grant money or high level government positions is going to know, like, yes, obviously there's a lot of this money could be spent in a far more efficient, leaner way. But because it's viewed as like, oh, well, it's the government money. Like, it just seems kind of, I think a lot of people do treat it as like the unlimited spigot of money.
Right. Yeah.
There seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at the taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So, you know, we're looking at.
This causes all the lefty heads to explode too, because they're like, oh my God, Elon Musk is rich at the taxpayer's expense. All of these government contracts. That's the only reason Elon Musk has any money.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the world they live in.
Right.
Say, well, we just if you look at say Treasury, for example, basic controls that should be in place, that are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment, and that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation, can take up to a year to get on the list. And even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing. So
all this seems so basic. It amazes me that so many people on the left just are not responding to any of this stuff.
Yeah. No, but see, and this is what's, because I hear all this, and I'm like, this is all fantastic. This is like what you want DOGE to be doing, right?
Of course.
This is all great stuff. It's completely not political. It's completely not partisan. Like, you know, this is all the things that he should be doing. And the problem is, especially from the public perception wise, is like, and we talked about this earlier, like, I understand why politically it wasn't done this way, but to make everyone in the country feel better, you know, I really wish that this had been the opening salvo of DOGE, is like, we're going to do these non-political, non-partisan things like what this whole situation right here. We're going to do this so that people could build up trust in the process, in Elon Musk, in DOGE, and all these things, as opposed to like right off the gate, we're just going to make it like this very hyper partisan, you know, look at all the money that the Democrats are using for their nefarious purposes, and I'm going to go after that. And then after doing that for like a couple weeks, it's like, oh, let me do this thing that everyone should agree with.
Yeah, totally wasted opportunity, because he could be building trust. Now the Democrats all are pointing to the condom thing like over and over and over again. It's like,
well, that's
totally waters down this.
The way in which, like, most people are not going to have time, because they have a life, they have a job, they have other interests, to look into and to investigate all the various claims that their government officials are going to tell them, that their newspapers or their preferred political pundit or Twitter accounts are going to tell them. So much of the world we live in is like a trust economy of who do you trust to tell you information? And that's very important. And the problem is, like, I think if Elon had started off the bat with this, he's building up more trust. He would
build more trust
with more people, where starting it off in a very partisan way, like, it's going to build up a high trust on the right, but it's basically going to build up zero trust on the left, so that even if he does something good, people on the left have been programmed to not have any trust in Elon or DOGE or the process at this point.
Yeah. Very sad.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
We're really just talking about adding common sense controls that should be present, that haven't been present.
Okay, let me jump ahead, because he's going to talk about the mine. We already heard that. The mine part.
The mine.
From any conflicts of interest that you may have.
Oh, yeah.
And
no,
that's what democracy is all about.
Oh, we're not going to talk. So on the conflict of interest part, he just says, look,
I just backed it up so we could hear the question.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Mr. Musk, the White House says that you will identify and excuse yourself from any conflicts of interest that you may have. Does that mean that you are in effect policing yourself? What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency?
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, our actions, we post our actions to the DOGE handle on X and to the DOGE website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't think there's been, I don't know of a case where an organization has been more transparent than the DOGE organization. So, you know, and the kind of things we're doing are, I think, very, very simple and basic. They're not, you know, what I mentioned, for example, about Treasury, just making sure that payments that go out, taxpayer money that goes out, is categorized correctly, that the payment is explained, that organizations on the do not pay list, which takes a lot to get there, that actually are not paid, which currently they are paid. These are not individual judgment decisions. These are about simply having sensible checks and balances in the system itself to ensure that taxpayer money is spent well. So it's got nothing to do with, like, say, a contract with some company of mine at all.
But if there is a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself, for instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts when it comes to the Pentagon, for instance, which the president, I know, has directed you to look into.
Yeah.
Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability check and balance in place that would provide any transparency for the American people?
Well, all of our...
Someone, I don't remember who it was, but it might have been Crystal Ball. Someone brought up this point of, like, how Elon, I don't know if he's aware of this, unless Elon gets pardoned by Donald Trump, Elon is basically setting himself up for having a decade of lawsuits against him. because he has so many entanglements with so many government organizations and all of his finances, all his companies, that like all these things that he's doing are all going to be violations of federal law. And there's going to be people that are going to come after him, after all this, during all this, after this is all gone, because the only people that have a carte blanche protection against that is the president and the vice president by law. Anyone working under the president doesn't have that protection. And they were talking about how like when people would, work for Obama, they had to like sell all their stocks and sell a bunch of like assets, even though it was like right as the financial crash happened, just to work in the various fields. Elon isn't doing any of this whatsoever. So he's going to either set himself up for just a shit ton of lawsuits in the future, or he's going to have to basically get how like Biden gave Hunter the pardon for everything. We're going to have like the Trump giving Elon Musk the preemptive, pardon for everything scenario down the road.
I don't think there will be a pardon situation because it would do so much reputational damage like to Elon Musk. And obviously the Tesla stock price would probably suffer from something like that. I do think obviously Elon has the kind of fuck you money that he's probably gets 100 lawsuits a day just being Elon Musk. So he's got a team of lawyers already working for him that are ready to fight all of those lawsuits. Like he's constantly in continuous litigation. So it's just, it would be like extra litigation on top of what he already sees. So he's probably just saying like, who cares?
I wonder if the pardon, I'm not sure. Cause I think if someone was like, oh, Elon Musk is getting hit with like 100 new lawsuits, I feel like that would probably do more damage to the stock price than Trump saying, I'm pardoning you, so you can't get any of those lawsuits.
There's a lot of litigation that happens on stock market stuff. So I don't know if there's any, but look, I do think, obviously I agree with the premise that he's opening himself up for new lawsuits. So
right.
I just think, if you look as an average person, as a normal person, you're like, oh my God, a lawsuit. Right. But if you're constantly engaged in 30 lawsuits all the time with all of your businesses, right, it's just like a feature of life for you at this level, then he's probably less worried about more lawsuits.
Right. But it would depend. I guess you'd have to look at all the individual laws and regulations, because I don't know if the laws say that the government or whoever's suing has to prove corruption, or if they only have to prove a conflict of interest. Because if they only have to prove a conflict of interest, that's going to be easy peasy.
There's a Wikipedia page, list of lawsuits involving Tesla Inc.
Well, here, let's listen to the rest of this, and then I want to go back to the transparency thing, because
our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say like, wait a second, hey, Elon, that seems like maybe that's, there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately.
Including you yourself.
Yes, but transparency is what builds trust, not simply somebody asserting trust. So not somebody saying they're trustworthy, but transparency, so you can see everything that's going on. And then you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not? It's totally obvious.
And if we thought that, we would not let him do that segment or look in that area if we thought there was a lack of transparency or a conflict of interest. And we watch that also. He's a big businessman. He's a successful guy. That's why we want him doing this. We don't want an unsuccessful guy doing this. Now, one thing also that Elon...
Okay, so on this transparency point, because transparency is good, and I do think there is a good part of kind of what's going on with Trump was that there is a lot of, I don't know if I say transparency, but there does seem to be like a lot of back and forth between like public having a conversation about like the policy that's being implemented, which I like, because it's a lot more so than I've ever seen in any other presidency, where usually it's just kind of like completely detached from the public conversation about what people are doing. So that's really good. But in terms of transparency, there's two issues here that I have, which is number one, if no one's going to do anything about it, transparency doesn't matter. So like, we talked about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, like everyone and their mother can see the conflict of interest. between Elon and that organization. If he wants to turn X into the everything app and teams up with Visa, everyone sees there's a conflict of interest, but they still shut it down, and he still shut it down. And if no one does anything about it, it was like, well, how did transparency doesn't help you at that point, right? Like everyone saw it and it just happened. No one stopped.
And
it.
nobody
No one
said
did
anything about
Right.
it. Yeah.
I mean, they say about it, but you can talk about it. You can complain about it. It's not going to do anything. So from
Well,
that level,
look, there are obviously people not talking about it. So
right. But
yeah.
I'm saying, so from that level, transparency doesn't really matter that much. That's the first part. But then there's something that I think is even more important than this, is that I don't like the way that this would normally go is the president would have an advisory committee like DOGE, and they'd say, okay, we want you to investigate the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We want you to write a report on whether they're corrupt or whether they're doing good things. And then you're going to give it to me. And then I'm going to read that report. And then we're going to do something of like either trying to get it shut down, either through executive order or through Congress, right? That's sort of like the normal process that this would all go into to pass. And so I would say, if you're really committed to transparency, what you would do is you do that process, only you don't just give the president that report or Congress that report, you publicly post report so that everyone can see like, oh, this is why they're shutting down the CFPB, right? They did X, Y, Z. Here it is in the report. They said, they did this and we found, a wrongdoing thing and we found evidence that they're doing this wrong thing, right? And here's a report that says it. That's transparency, okay? Is laying out the reason and the evidence for why you're doing something. What isn't transparency is just saying, we're going to investigate the CFPB. We investigated them, decide they're bad, and we're shutting it down. That's not transparency, okay? Like, yeah, you told people that you're investigating them, and then you told people you shut it down. Those are two pieces of information that if you didn't tell anyone, it would also come out and be publicly talked about in the news, because everyone knows that. That's not transparency. And so I do feel like there's this kind of like fake transparency that's kind of happening in a lot of regards here in terms of like the CFPB and even the USA thing, where people just like post those like say like, oh, I looked on a government website, a Twitter account say, I looked on a government website and it showed some money went to this thing. I don't like that this thing is named X. It's named, LGBT comic book or whatever. They got money. This somehow must be corrupt. It's shut it down. Right? Or I think that the CFPB is involved in debanking, but I'm not proving it. I'm just going to make the claim on X. And then it gets shut down. That's not transparency at all.
Is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau closed? Is it dead?
It is currently closed, yeah.
Currently closed, but it's not dead, right?
Well, I don't know, because I believe Elon said it was dead. And it's closed, and there's there's no transparency in terms of like, are we bringing it back? Are we reforming it? What are we doing exactly with the CFPB? And why? There isn't any transparency about why it was shut down in the first place.
Yeah. I went to the DOGE website and it says receipts coming soon, no later than Valentine's Day. What's today? That's tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow is Valentine's Day.
Maybe it's like gonna be the WikiLeaks drop over here on the DOGE website.
Let's see. I mean, we'll see. Because right now, I don't believe there isn't any evidence that I've seen regarding this stuff.
Oh man, that's painful. Like if they get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Yeah.
And even the way that guy cast it on Joe Rogan, that it's Elizabeth Warren's. Yeah, it's right. Elizabeth Warren's hit squad, right?
Which is
oh my god! Look, I hate Elizabeth Warren. Like I think Elizabeth Warren used to be good, but has obviously been corrupted by Washington. She's one of these people that's like filthy rich and like probably does a bunch of insider trading, takes huge money from the pharmaceutical lobby. But so framing it that way is good. Obviously, that's smart framing, but at the same time, I think the institution probably does more good than harm. Anna Kasparian has done a bunch of videos on how much money they've returned to the public and they're returning more money than they're taking in. So,
right. But in terms of like, and we'll see maybe tomorrow, the website will have more information. The transparency is they need to post if they want to, I mean, they don't need to, but if they want to be transparent. And I think it would be a good, like, this would be a historic thing for Trump and Elon to basically start a precedent for this going forward for all presidencies for the government is post report publicly that explains why the thing that's happening is happening. Because the big problem, or one of the biggest problems that people have, is we don't understand why the government is doing what it's doing. It seems like it's just wasting a bunch of money or it's just being corrupt. So post the information, post receipts that shows what you're doing. I'm not going to just blindly trust Elon, because the worst case scenario here is that he's correct, that he is being transparent on X. And if that's the case, that means that all he's doing is that he's just using his, the Elon friendly accounts that post shit on X as like actual sources to make these decisions, which is the worst case scenario. I hope that's not what's going on here. I hope that they actually have some sort of inside information that they're looking over to make these decisions.
Yeah, look, and I want to see that information. So obviously we don't have that information yet.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I was looking, are we going to watch any more of this?
Yeah, we can watch some more of this. There's I don't know. I guess not. There's the condoms thing where he just kind of brushes off. Which I think the condoms thing is a big deal because again, that was like one of the big reasons that was constantly given for, closing those programs was the condoms thing. And it turns out it was not only was it the wrong country, but it wasn't even for condoms. It was for like, just general HIV prevention. And, they asked the organization, they said that none of that money was spent on condoms anyway. So the whole thing is, a wash. Right.
Right. Look, I'm not as triggered over the condom thing because Elon in this press conference says he got it wrong. It went to some other place. He continued that it was $50 million on condoms, which I don't think is correct anyway. Mm-hmm. But people get information wrong all the time. Like,
right.
I don't, if like if all of a sudden they're running on this lie in elections and stuff like that, okay, that's a bit much. But I mean, if this is just a one-off that people are going to talk about and forget, I'm not that big a deal to me. Well, a bigger deal is like disbanding the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau,
of course,
for no reason.
Right.
When I do think that these are the people, and look, I get it. Like a lot of people are like, I don't want my tax dollars going to that because I never use it, right? I bank at Bank of America, right? Mm-hmm. But like as soon as you have a problem with a bank and you want to turn to some regulator, you want a cop on the beat that's going to help you out.
Right.
And so like that's the time that you need it. Yeah. And obviously it exists because enough people did need it that they needed an institution to turn to.
Well, I mean, it was created to consolidate a lot of the different various organizations that were involved in this after the housing crash.
Right.
Because so many people obviously got screwed over from that. And it's not like the conversation isn't like, we think that this organization is too weak. We want to make it stronger, right? I haven't heard Elon or Trump, anyone say that. No. Make that argument that we need to, beef up this organization to go after the banks. But regarding the whole, like the condoms thing and just this sort of thing, I think there's two issues I have with this. And well, I think part of it is just that Elon is sort of treating this the way he treats business. And I don't think you can. Like when you're running a business, I guess you can just throw something out there and maybe it's not such a big deal if it turns out to be untrue. You throw something out there, it gets fact checked, then you kind of like course correct, right? Which is sort of the attitude that this is. But I think there's two issues here, which is number one, if the thing you throw out there is like the main or one of the primary reasons you give to do an action and it turns out to be untrue, then obviously that's a big deal because it's like, well, that was one of the big justifications to do an action. But
you think the condom thing is that though? Come on.
It was at first for the USAID thing. That was like the big thing that they kept pointing to, that Trump himself was talking about in the press conferences.
Right. There was other
So,
things though that turned out
I
to be
know.
true.
Did they?
I mean, I'm assuming
I don't
the
know. That's the thing. But the second thing is,
the
and this is where
transgender comic book wasn't true. That was a big lie too.
I have no idea. Right.
Okay.
But the second thing here, and I think this is more important, is in terms of so much of like the government and what the government's role is and how people feel about society is all perception based. And so, and I don't think this is something that Elon is taking into consideration, or even Trump's taking into consideration, because I think they are looking at it through the business lens. And if they throw out a bunch of things that turn out not to be true, to say like the government is doing X evil thing, and then it turns out the government's actually not doing X evil thing, like half the population is never going to hear the fix, right? They're never going to hear the correction. They're only going to hear the original explosive claim, and they're going to believe it.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
there's this example, and I don't know the truth claim about this yet because I haven't really looked into it, and just started to come out like today. Is that there's this accusation against Reuters because, you know, like there's the whole thing about Politico, like, oh my God, why is the government, you know, paying Politico all this money? And then it turns out like, well, they're not paying Politico, the news organization, a bunch of money. There's some other wing of Politico that does all this sort of like high level analysis, and they have some very expensive subscription program that a bunch of businesses and the government, you know, buys for information essentially. And it's like, oh, okay. And then apparently there's something that's very similar with Reuters now, where Reuters has some like connection, some other like thing that's not necessarily associated directly with the news, but is like owned by the same guy, Thomas Reuters, and the government, the Department of Justice or the Department of Defense, you know, paid them to do some sort of project to try to stop, like, it seems like, to try to stop foreign influence campaigns, foreign social engineering campaigns, right? And, you know, you basically have Mario Nafal and some of these other like Elon Orbiter accounts on X. They find this information and they say, aha, without knowing anything, knowing zero information so far about the program specifically. They just say, look, the Department of Defense paid Reuters to do this thing. I don't trust the Department of Defense. I don't trust Reuters. Therefore, it must be some sort of evil government is paying Reuters to mind control the public, right? No one has any facts about this, at least when they posted this, you know, a few hours ago. And then Elon reposts it, and he just repeats it. He says, wow, this is a total scam that the US government is paying for this. He doesn't know anything about it. He hasn't had any time to even investigate this. Instead of being like, the responsible thing to do would be like, wow, it's a crazy thing. Let's investigate this to see if this is actually a good thing or a bad thing. And then a week goes by and he's like, here's the report. He looked into it and it was nothing, or he looked into it and it was a really bad thing, right? And explains like why it's a good thing or why it's a bad thing. That's like how you should frame it, but he doesn't. He just says, oh my God, it's totally evil, totally scam, deep state. Oh my God. And then even if a week later he comes out, he's like, oh, it turns out that was nothing. Like, no one's going to fucking hear the correction. That's already going to be cemented in their mind that, oh my God, the government paid Reuters to mind control the population.
Yeah, I just think people believe ridiculous shit, and it doesn't. Like, as soon as it becomes part of a political campaign, I think that's when I start thinking about it. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think that if a bunch of schmoes believe we spent $50 million on condoms in Gaza, I don't think it's like a big deal. I don't think it's going to really impact society. Like, obviously there's like fake news, like Trump praised neo-Nazis that the media continued to press over and over again because they wanted to make it a political issue. If this was the same kind of that level, I do think I'd be more, oh my God, this is a unforgivable sin.
Well, there's two things, which is, first of all, it's not just schmoes, it's Elon Musk and Donald Trump, who are literally at the levers of power.
No, the schmoes are the ones that are going to believe this stuff. So,
well, they believe it.
Yeah, but look, Elon Musk has already corrected himself.
Okay.
Said they went to Mozambique. Like, sooner or later, he's going to get to the truth.
Well, maybe, we hope. But
and look, I don't believe that Elon Musk is going to know the truth and then continue to say that we sold condoms to Hamas. Like, he's going to correct himself. And the difference is, I think, like, Biden does know the truth about praising neo-Nazis, and he's still using it because it's politically effective. Now, I don't know if I'd make that claim with Trump. Trump might say it, even though it's untrue, right?
Right.
But I've seen nothing to make me believe Elon Musk is just going to flat out lie for some sort of political advantage. So
I'm not sure. It's hard to tell what is the breadth, width, and control, or not even that control, but the influence that the internet punditry space and Fox News has on the population. Because, when they're coming out and accusing all these programs of being the evil deep state actors, when they're coming out and claiming that Reuters is doing some evil thing, and maybe in the future someone will provide evidence that shows it's evil. I don't know, because again, it's too early to tell. All the right-wing internet pundits come out and immediately say, this is what's going on. Fox News and all those, the right-wing political pundits, even on the internet, all repeat the story. And so it is the right-wing version of the Fine People hoax, in terms of, it's like just the right-wing news comes out and they blast the story out. I don't know if it's true. Maybe it'll be proven true. Maybe it'll be proven false in the future. But I do think it has a pretty substantial effect on the voting population in this country.
Okay. I guess the dividing line for me is where it's mainstream news outlets that are doing this because it's a conflict with their goal of journalism, right?
Right.
I don't see Elon Musk as a journalist. Like I said, and I think you agree, is that he's kind of crowdsourcing information. So look, and he could come out and completely lie. If you think he has, I mean, I would love to look at that. So
I don't know if he's lying or if it's just I think Mark Andreessen and Zach and Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh, I think that guy's lying. I think that guy's 100% lying. Yeah,
I don't know if Elon's lied about anything or if he just naively believes what other people are telling him.
That could be the case. But look, this is one of the interesting things that's going on here, because I have a completely different view of the economy than Elon Musk, obviously. But I do like the view of the economy that Elon Musk has is the conventional view of the economy. That's a view that most people have, the neoclassical view. I just think Elon Musk is like so smart that I keep wondering if he's going to come to the realization that the economy works differently than everybody's saying. Like, if he's gonna, because he is a very much an out of the box thinker. So I think he could come to those conclusions. So that's like an interesting storyline that I'm following with this situation. Another storyline is Elon Musk going to lie, is knowingly lie for some sort of political advantage. I mean, we had these conversations about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris about whether or not they knew that the fine people that Trump praised neo-Nazis was not true, that Trump actually denounces neo-Nazis in the same speech. And we would look at what they say, and they had a very legalistic way of always mentioning it, that you thought they fucking know that they're lying. So I guess that's really the line that I'm looking at here. So, I like to give people grace if they're just sharing bad information. I've shared bad information, but I always untweet the tweets or delete the post or whatever if it's factually incorrect. So I try to be aware of that. I don't want to spread bad news or false information.
Yeah, no.
But
and I've shared things that turned out not to be true. And I'll tweet them and I'll tell
we're a
people,
comedy
like,
show. He's got like 215 million followers.
Yeah, of course. So no, I agree. And listen, I'm totally fine with letting Elon cook, letting Trump cook to some extent. I mean, we're gonna talk about it as they're cooking, but if this all turns out, like, in the end, to just be like, oh my God, it totally all worked out for the best. Listen, I'll be the first person to say, like, holy shit, it all worked out, right? I'm glad. I want America to succeed. I want the country to succeed, et cetera. Like, so I'm totally on board with that if it all works out in the end.
If he turns out to be like a big fat liar, then fucking he's gone. Dismissed. We can't have that. People do start off good and then they're corrupted by the system. Turns them into big fat fucking liars, right?
Right. Okay. And then the last, I sent you an article. It'll be the last story we talk about today.
I sent you an article too. The 23.
Oh, the 23 lawsuits.
The
Yeah.
the 23 active lawsuits that Elon Musk is involved
What if that
in.
becomes 123?
Well, I think like once you're past the teens, you're like, you don't even really think about
The number
it,
just
right?
becomes too high for you to
Yeah, look.
Okay. Okay.
This is how world wars break out. You're like, oh, we're already fighting on 3 fronts. Like, what the fuck?
We've already had like, 10,000 people die. What's another 10,000, right? Yeah.
It's weird, but
Exactly.
yeah. He's lawyered up and ready. I'm sure he's got plenty of lawyers that make huge amounts of money off him that are like, oh, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the first call that he would make, right? He'd say, look, we're in 23 lawsuits now. Can we handle 100? And the law firm would say, we have 6,000 employees, Elon. We can handle 100
They're going to say
lawsuits."
like, listen, we might need a little bit more money, but we'll be happy to do it if you pay us more. Right?
If you're Elon Musk, you're not even worried about the money.
Of
right?
course. That's why they're going to be like, listen, the legal department at Tesla and SpaceX will be more than happy to take on more work. Okay.
Yeah.
To get a larger budget.
This is funny because this is the difference between Elon Musk and Trump, because Trump is like the baby billionaire.
Yeah, he doesn't want to spend money on anything. And Elon's like, whatever, I don't give a fuck. Spend on everything.
Trump is like, transition team.
Well, listen,
I don't want to pay for that. Elon is like, I give you 200 billion. Maybe you get elected.
If you're like on that cusp where you're waffling between being a billionaire and not being a billionaire, it makes sense that you're like penny pinching. If you're like so beyond that cusp, it doesn't matter, then yeah. Right? Who cares?
Yeah.
Spend the money.
So what is, Senate accuses FBI nominee of covertly directing dismissals?
Yes.
What? Oh,
Okay, so it's our good friend Kash Patel here. Now, I'm going to be completely...
Oh, good. The internet kicked in. Obviously, Kash Patel has disconnected Sitch's internet connection, which is great. Sitch was the first person dismissed. Ironic. Sitch, maybe you should plug in your modem or something. Or maybe it's on my end. Holy shit. Let's see. Can you guys hear me in the chat? I don't even have the chat up. Let me pull the chat up.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, you're back. Nice. I didn't get a warning. You don't plug your computer in anymore?
No. It wasn't even that. It was my mic just stopped working for some reason. I just had to unplug it and replug it. I don't know.
Okay.
Kash Patel attacked my microphone, everybody.
That's what I told everyone. You heard me.
I heard. But no, so to be clear though, this is all an accusation. So we don't know if this is true. This is an accusation. This is a claim. Okay. This is a whistleblower claim. We don't know if it's actually true.
Well, hold on. Why are we allowed to even talk about it then? I thought the rule was that we can't really talk about anything until it's completely fact checked.
Because it's
that's not my rule. That's your rule. My rule is we can talk about anything.
Well, no, because remember what I said with Elon. I said he shouldn't just say, he shouldn't ignore it. He shouldn't say it's true. He should say this, this is concerning. We'll investigate to see whether it's true or not. That's what I said he should have said.
And here was my counter argument to that.
Right.
Even if we do that, even if we say, oh, this is just allegedly, everyone on the left who hates Kash Patel is going to be like, ha, this is totally true.
That's true. And everyone on the right is going to say it's totally not true.
Of course,
here is where the free will comes in, is to say, this is something that should be investigated to find out if it's true, and then we can pass judgment. Okay, that's how the free will kicks in.
Well, it's great that he's going to be head of, what's that I stand for in FBI?
Investigation. So he
right.
can investigate himself. Yeah,
it's
there you
perfect.
Go. Yeah.
Self-investigation.
I don't know if the FBI Inspector General got fired or not. So maybe. Okay, here's the story. Top Democrat in the Senate Judiciary Committee on Tuesday accused Kash Patel, President Trump's nominee for FBI director, of improperly directing a wave of firings at the Bureau before being confirmed. In a letter to the Justice Department, Inspector General Senator Richard J. Durbin of Illinois cited highly credible information from multiple sources that suggested that Mr. Patel had been personally involved in covertly orchestrating a purge of career officials at the FBI, saying, quote, this alleged misconduct is beyond the pale and must be investigated immediately. So there's two issues with this. First of all, so basically what the accusation is Dick Durbin is saying that he has multiple whistleblowers. Again, it's a claim, okay, that he has multiple whistleblowers who claim that when the FBI was getting purged the day before Kash Patel's hearing, so he hasn't actually been confirmed yet, that it was actually Kash Patel as a private citizen that was behind the scenes telling, whoever was in charge of the FBI who they wanted to fire, right? And this would be a problem for two reasons. First of all, it's illegal for a private citizen who's not confirmed to head the FBI to tell the FBI what to do and to influence what the FBI is doing. So that's number one. Number two, if you remember, because we watched the hearing, Cory Booker, and we talked about this, Cory Booker specifically asked Kash Patel, did you have a conversation with Donald Trump or anyone else about firing people from the FBI? And who to fire from the FBI. And Kash Patel under oath said, I don't recall. Or I don't believe so. He said one of those.
So he didn't perjure himself.
Right.
Smart.
Right. So while he maybe perjured himself, if this happened the day before and he's like, oh, I suddenly magically forgot the next day, he has amnesia like the guy from Memento. So
I think he has plausible deniability here.
He says I don't recall or I don't remember.
How are they gonna investigate whether or not he actually recalled and lied?
Well, if it happened the day before, how do you forget that?
Oh my God, it's never gonna happen, man. This does.
Well, they're not gonna investigate it. They don't give a shit. They're not gonna investigate it.
Nobody gives a shit about this. I don't think I don't think people on the street give a shit about this, to be honest. Look, can we do a poll? I'm curious if people. I mean, obviously, it'll break down along partisan lines, but
yeah. So what's the point?
Well, look, I'm not a partisan. I don't give a shit about this.
You don't care if someone is up to be in charge of some organization and then they ask them a question in the Senate Judiciary Committee and they just lie directly.
And he says, I don't recall.
Yeah. When they 100% knows he did it. Yes.
I'm talking about actually firing the people before you're actually in office.
Oh, I
don't give a shit about that.
I don't.
So look, I don't give a shit if he lies about it.
Well, okay, hold on.
Look, this is to me, this is like speeding. This is like a fucking speeding thing.
Well, wait.
Look, speeding is against the law. Oh my God. Did you say that you weren't speeding? Yes, I did. I did say I wasn't speeding because I was going 90 in a fucking school zone.
Okay. Here's why I disagree. Number one, I agree with you in terms of, even though it's illegal, I don't super care about if he's directing, trying to get people fired before he's actually in charge of it. I don't super care about that, even if it's legal. Okay. Wait, hold on, but that's not the part that I care about. What I do care about is that if you do that, then you fucking lie about it.
Well, if it's illegal
while you're under oath. Okay.
Okay, so you care about
I care about the lying.
Right. Okay.
Because remember,
I think just to be fair with you,
yeah,
I think he's totally lying because obviously you would recall something like that. Let's be honest here, right?
Of course. Okay. So yeah, obviously it was.
Look,
he was lying. Yes.
You don't talk about clearing your path at the FBI, come up with a list of people to fire, and not recall.
And then forget.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You're like, oh, whoops, I just completely forgot about that.
That's completely ridiculous. But from the point of view that you don't want to get caught perjuring yourself, I don't recall is the right move. That is the right move to make. It is a lie. I'm with you there. And look, I guess maybe I have a higher tolerance for playing the game of politics than you. So,
well, here's the problem. It's you have someone who's supposed to be the head of the fucking FBI. There's an organization that has a history of being controlled by evil people.
Should be honest. Yeah. Should
right.
be
yes.
completely squeaky clean. Right.
Right. Yeah. you really don't want the head, like, of all the different organizations, you really don't want the head of the FBI to be some like fucking shady, dishonest person. And so we
Right.
have this situation where it's someone's accusing him of directly lying under oath about being involved with these firings. You have the situation which also came up. I think Cory Booker brought it up too. A bunch of them brought it up too, which is like,
Oh yeah, I know.
he seemed to have lied about having some sort of firsthand knowledge of Donald Trump declassifying documents, and then behind closed doors admitted that he didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
And then he didn't want to actually say what the testimony was about whether he said that. So when you have these, like, this guy who you're like, there's not a really good pattern here of behavior. Like, yeah, I do think that merits investigation. Obviously, the Republicans aren't going to give a fuck about this. They're not going to investigate this. They're not going to investigate
This
and
is
pull
just
out
making
his
political hay.
right.
Yeah.
They're not going to pull out his grand jury testimony to find out if he did behind the scenes says, JK guys, I was just lying about having information about Trump declassifying documents. They don't give a fuck about any of that stuff.
One of these insider books that I read on Trump from a total TDS Trump hater. She recalls a conversation that she had with Donald Trump. She was basically like a project manager on some of his real estate deals, building buildings and whatnot. She'd manage a lot of the stuff that went into that. And Donald Trump had her in his office and they were talking about something. And I think he wanted to kind of, embellish the truth a bit on some deal, right? And she was just completely goody two shoes, straight lace, like, oh, we can't do that. Obviously, that would be dishonest.
Right.
And Donald Trump said to her, "That's your problem. You're too honest." And it completely got under her skin. Like you could tell just in the way she's writing the book that this was the line that made her think, oh my God, Donald Trump is the most untrustworthy man in America. But I mean, I could see people looking at that situation and going, yeah, like it's a little used car salesman, right? But that kind of shit happens, if it helps a business deal go through and it's not completely destroying people's lives, a lot of people are willing to look the other way on stuff like that. So I feel like this falls into that kind of like Donald Trump got rid of her and then found Kash Patel. And Kash Patel is like, when Donald Trump says to Kash Patel, your problem is you're too honest, Kash Patel is like, I can fix it, right?
Kash Patel's like, here, look, I wrote a children's book about how Hillary stole the election or tried to steal the election from you. Okay.
We got to read that children's book.
We do.
Look, Kash Patel is definitely a mixed bag. And I've said, look, I totally regret saying in the beginning of our live stream with Kash Patel that I like Kash Patel. I'm a Kash Patel fan. Like I'm completely backing up Kash. Like I said that I don't think I said I'm completely backing him up, but I said enough stuff that people were like, oh my God. But I mean, I lost a lot of faith in Kash Patel during that hearing, right? As you're introduced to any sort of person, you're collecting data points, as I'm always saying, right? There's a certain amount of information. I have dinner with Kash Patel and Kash Patel forgets his wallet and I end up having to pay all of a sudden, right?
Yeah, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, fuck this guy.
Yeah. So
yeah, of course, that's the way you should do. You should be able to, and that's laudable, to change your mind when new information comes in. Yeah.
But this situation here, I can see obviously people on the left are going to lose their minds, but I don't think people in the middle are going to really care about this. So,
well, people generally don't care about a lot of this procedural stuff anyway, because they're just not really focusing on it. But I found the specific quote. Cory Booker asked him, he says, are you aware of any plans or discussions to punish in any way, including termination, FBI agents or personnel associated with Trump investigations?
Dude, he's so new. He's so new.
He did, because, after this, they must have known, because after this, he says, you're aware you're under oath. Okay. So they must have known. So Kash Patel responded. He actually responded worse. He didn't really give himself any wiggle room. He said, I'm not aware of that. Not that he didn't remember. He said he's not aware of it, which that would be a direct lie if he was. I don't know what's going on right now over there, but I'm committed to you, Senator, and your colleagues. I will honor the internal review process of the FBI.
He should have stuck with I don't recall.
I don't recall. I'm not sure.
I'm not aware is not as good. I'm not an attorney. I think a good attorney could probably get you out of the you're not aware. Like you could say, oh, look, he had a headache that day.
Oh, okay. After he had that conversation with the people to fire them, he had a headache and, just totally forgot.
I just look, oh God. We're just swimming in fucking liars everywhere. So.
Okay. Let's read some super chats here.
We'll see what he does.
We'll see what he does.
Have you seen the other people now are saying the same thing I said on the show about how Donald Trump is going after Alvin Bragg and Letitia James through Eric Adams. Now that's like entered the zeitgeist. I was like, I totally called it. Supposedly Eric Adams knows where the Letitia James and Alvin Bragg bodies are buried. He's got dirt on them.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a transactional quid pro quo. Oh no quid pro quo for Trump, basically, so that he can get dirt on them.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think those people are kind of detestable anyway. So it's hard for me to have. But it is the opposite of cleaning up the. Well, it depends on what kind of dirt he has, right?
Yeah.
Like if he goes after Alvin Bragg on nonsense, then that is weaponizing the justice system, right?
Right, yeah.
But if Alvin Bragg is like, oh my God, he killed like 3 hookers. He's like a serial killer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then obviously that's got to prosecute then. They wish they had that on Trump, right?
They do.
They do have that on Trump? No.
No, they wish they did.
Where are we at is for super chats. I don't know.
We are at
JRA. Did we do that? $10?
Wait, hold on.
I don't know if you guys covered it. Oh, but I work in the mine. Yeah, we covered that.
Instant Sacks for $15 says, next time you're doing a sexual assault training, make sure to ask how strict the sexual assault policy is. HR loves attentive people who ask questions.
My God, that's beautiful. That would be
That
would be the perfect question. Now, what if this happens off the premises? Is it okay then?
Right. Jonathan Smith for $5 says, Elon don't say he'd remove himself from conflicts. It would always be the best deal in the public's eye. Shrug. So do you trust it's open?
Yeah, well, so that is hedging a bit.
It is hedging. And that's the thing. If it's open, but no one does anything about it, it doesn't really matter at that point.
If they get Teslas for half price, right? If they get Cybertrucks for half price, it's going to be hard to say, okay, well, the thing people are upset about is when they gouge, they usually charge the government double, right?
Right. Spencer Harmon for $20 says, with all the U.S. aid stuff coming out and with Mike Benz on Tucker and Joe Rogan, I'm starting to realize I never really disagree with Sitch. I only ever disagree with U.S. aid funded sources. There you go. I got to watch him on Tucker. It's going to be annoying because I feel like it's going to take forever. But it's like, I got to do like some kind of the deep dive into the Mike Benz thing, because whenever I just see like clips, it's never an actual explanation. And so I'm like wondering if there's anything, if there's a there behind all this stuff. But I know it's going to take me forever, so I'm just kind of like hesitant to open that behemoth. Actually, for $5 says, Sitch, can you steel man Mark Andreessen's arguments because I have a very different memory of it? I might rewatch it after this.
Well, you should rewatch the video from Patrick. That's the one to watch, because Patrick kind of eviscerates that exchange in his video.
I don't know if we can watch the clip without getting flagged by Joe Rogan. Or not.
I'm gonna put the Patrick. I'll put the Patrick video into.
Does he have the clip? Does Patrick have the clip?
Patrick has the clip in the video. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess we could probably watch the clip here, because I think I have the time code on Joe Rogan. Let me put this in here.
That's Patrick Boyle is the content creator. He makes great videos. If you haven't subscribed, you should. He's really good. Does a lot of financial stuff, a lot of business stuff.
Well, let me see real quick.
I guess I could send it to Ostracy too.
Boop, boop, boop. It's at 133.44. 133.
With this thing called the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, CFPB, which was it's sort of Elizabeth Warren's personal agency that she gets to control. And it's
So already
That's
the first
a
sentence is a
big
lie.
lie.
Okay,
That's a
the
big
first
lie.
sentence is a lie, right? Elizabeth Warren
Yeah.
does not have any control over the CFPB.
They tried
was
to
a
make
big-
her the head of it, but she
But they
didn't get
didn't.
confirmed. Yeah.
Right, and she's just she was an advocate for it originally, but she doesn't have any control over it. So already the first sentence about it is a lie.
an independent agency that just gets to run and do whatever it wants, right? And if you read the Constitution, like there is no such thing as
This guy does look like he steals money from people. I mean, he just has a look about him like,
You don't feel it?
yeah,
Feeling
this
it?
guy looks so shady to me. Like, I just
Right.
imagine him like lying to you.
Interesting.
Like, I got a huge investment opportunity for you here. Just give me a couple $1 million and
independent
Right.
agency, and yet there it is.
What does her agency do?
Whatever she wants.
What does it do, though?
Basically, it terrorize financial institutions, prevent fintech, prevent new competition, new startups that want to compete with the big banks.
Really?
Oh yeah, 100%.
How so?
So
Can
this
you
is
imagine?
this is so interesting. So Joe asked twice, what does it do? He says terrorize, and then you see how flustered he got. He was like literally up, but
What does it do, though?
Basically, it terrorize financial institutions, prevent fintech, prevent new competition, new startups that want to compete with.
well, see, but here's why. Okay, here's where like I get hit with the massive this guy's a liar stick. He wanted to say it prevents crypto and fintech industries, but he knows that's not like no one cares about that, right? That's not like a good selling point. So he's like trying to say what's true, and then he's like trying to like on the fly think of a way to reword it that's more
Yeah, because no one
palatable.
knows what fintech is.
Or-
he
or
doesn't
even-
he doesn't
yes.
say crypto, but
No, he says, listen, he says crypto in his like verbal diarrhea.
She do?
Whatever she wants.
What does it do, though?
Basically, it terrorize financial institutions, prevent fintech.
See, he said fin. He's like, see, he's like trying to say it, but he's like, oh no one cares about that.
he doesn't say crypto. He says crypt.
He
Crip.
says Crip. Okay, you're right. He meant like the Crips, like the gang. The
He
Crips.
gets more of fintech out. But look,
Yes.
watch the Patrick Boyle video, guys, because it's just the
He goes-
stuff
he-
in
he
there
goes
is
through it, right.
terrifying, dude.
Yeah.
People put like vast sums of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars in these banks that they think are like a legitimate bank, and there are a bunch of legitimate online banks now. So who knows? It's like a website you go to, right? Most people do their banking at the Bank of America on the website or whatever, right?
Right.
So, and these people get fucking hosed. The money goes in and never comes out.
Yeah, the Patrick Boyle video is called.
Oh, I put a
Yoida.
link to it in the chat. So,
Yeah,
and I
it's called
sent
Yoida
Ostrich
Bank
to-
and the Problem with FinTech. But here, let's just watch a little bit more of this. Okay.
Prevent new competition, new startups that want to compete with the big banks.
Really?
Oh yeah, 100%.
How so?
Just like
Look how
terrorize.
you want to compete with the big banks, right?
Right.
But the problem is you're broke.
Yeah. Right. Well, here's the thing. And there's something he does say at one point in this conversation that is true, and it's a completely good true point, which is that there's so many regulations on banks, especially after the housing crash, that it's like so difficult, if not impossible, for new banks to be formed. That's completely true. And if there's a way to allow, because you want to have competition, obviously, because you don't want to have monopolies. So that's a completely good point. You want to be able to
You
create
need
it
some
so that
level of
there's
regulation, though.
Well,
Sam Bankman-Fried
okay.
stole fucking everyone's money, and they're all
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I was about to say. You want it to be able so that you can have competition. You don't want a monopoly. You want competition so that there can be new banks to form. But at the same token, you do need to have a lot of regulation and a lot of oversight because you don't want Sam Bankman-Fried to steal everyone's fucking money. You don't want Mark Andreessen, who was involved. I don't remember if he was involved with Yoida Bank or he was involved with the Bloom bullshit college. There's a lot of these like fintech things that are like total fucking scams that screw people out of their money. And so it's like, okay, just because there's one problem that needs to be solved, that doesn't mean you get rid of the police, right? It means you change the law to try to figure out a way to have competition, but also regulate appropriately. But here.
Oh man, what do we talk about the monopoly on violence? Like, there's a reason we don't have competing fucking police departments.
Of course. But okay, but listen to what he says very closely here.
Terrorize financial institutions, prevent fintech, prevent new competition, new startups that want to compete with the big banks.
Really?
Oh yeah, 100%.
How so?
Just like
Okay, so he said, wait, hold on. So he said terrorizing financial industries, okay, by preventing competition. And Joe Rogan says, how so? Because so Joe Rogan here is looking for like a specific example, right? He said how so 3 times now.
Anybody who tries to do anything new in financial services.
Can you give me an example?
Well, like I said, debanking. This is where a lot of the debanking comes from. Is these agencies. So debanking is when you as either a person or your company are literally kicked out of the banking system.
Like they did to Kanye.
Exactly, like they did to Kanye.
This is totally a topic change, by the way.
Okay,
like he totally changed the topic.
Right.
And did you hear the little like heavy breathing there when he changed the topic?
Right. So again, so the way that I remembered it was 100% correct. He says, oh, the CFPB is doing I always get the acronym wrong. The CFPB is terrorizing banks. They're doing all this bad stuff. And Joe Rogan says, give me an example. And he jumps to debanking, which they have nothing to fucking do with whatsoever. Okay. So that's a 100% lie. That's a massive, bold lie. Number one.
So, and not only that, how's the terrorizing? Is it like telling people that they have to debank the people, or telling them they can't debank the people? Does he ever elaborate on that? I don't think he does.
Well, no, he says he does go on about how it's just they're debanking people on the right. And the way this all, since we know that that's not true, CFPB has nothing to do with that. It all seems like it's just a way to try to get Joe Rogan's audience on board with, we need to get rid of this organization because they're going after people for political reasons, when we know that that's not only is that not true, it's the opposite. The CFPB was actively trying to stop banks and financial institutions from debanking people for free speech reasons. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is another big red flag here. But then it's even worse because, and I remember we talked about this at the time, Joe Rogan mistakenly believed the fake news that Kanye West was debanked because he was saying Nazi shit, which was 100% not true at all. And even Kanye admitted it. But like, this is exactly what I meant when I said this is the danger of Elon saying something, and then it turns out to be completely untrue, and then later correcting, and then people don't hear the correction. It's the exact same thing with the Kanye thing. This claim comes out that Kanye got debanked because he was saying a bunch of Nazi shit. Later it comes out 100% untrue. No one hears the correction. But then it forms the worldview of people like Joe Rogan and his audience afterwards. What happened with Kanye, which he even admitted to or acknowledged, because I don't even think he was the one that, I don't remember if he was the one that started the debanking lie, was Kanye had this retarded story before he went totally unhinged with the Nazi shit, where he walked into, I don't know if it was JP Morgan or Chase, it was whatever the bank is that Jared Diamond owns. And he walked into the bank and without like calling anyone, and he's like, I want to speak to Jared Diamond. I want to have like a meeting with him.
Jamie Diamond.
Jamie Diamond. Thank you. Jared Diamond is the Guns, Germs, and Steel guy.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to speak to Jamie Diamond. And they're like, oh, I mean, you can't just like
Do you
walk
have an
in
appointment?
here. Yeah. Like you can just, I mean, I know you're Kanye West, but you can't like just like walk into here and talk to Jamie Diamond. You need to like set up an appointment. And he was like so fucking mad.
Personally offended.
Yeah. He was so personally offended that he had to like get an appointment to talk to Jamie Diamond.
Celebrity brain all the way.
I know. It's like totally insane. Like even, I don't even know who knows even in the fucking office, right? It could be some other country doing business.
Do you know who I am?
Right.
I'm Kanye fucking West.
I know. It's so stupid. So he says this. That's why I said I don't know if it was JP Morgan or Chase. It's JP Morgan Chase because they merged. But so he has this conversation. He gets so mad that he leaves JP Morgan Chase, and then he sends a letter to JP Morgan Chase that he's gonna pull all of his money out from their bank, and he wants them to close their account. So he does that. He pulls all his money out of their accounts. Then it takes some time. It takes like a month or two for them to officially close his account. They close his account and they send him a letter that says like, as per your request, we close your account. Somehow someone gets a screenshot of the letter of them saying they closed his account. Doesn't say the reason, right? Someone posted on X and they say, oh my God, Chase Bank, they debanked Kanye West because he's saying Nazi shit. Even though it's completely not true. Kanye West asked for his account to be closed.
Did Elon retweet that?
I don't know if Elon retweeted that. I don't know. But that's how the myth grows. And so now even Joe Rogan is repeating it, and Mark Andreessen, who I don't know if he knows the truth about this, but even he's fucking regurgitating this as a reason to get rid of the CFPB.
Yeah. Horrifying.
Terrible.
Look, I mean, I completely agree with you. I just look at it from a pragmatic perspective. We're swimming in an information space. It's just so fucking polluted. I don't know how you fix that. I really don't.
Yeah. Neocon Sitch for 2 hours says the concept of the day should be moral hazard. Yeah, I guess we should just be
No. He wants you to say moral hazard because the people should lose their money when they have over $250,000 in FDIA insurance. I
thought you meant moral hazard against banks doing bad things.
No. He's basically saying buyer beware. The moral hazard is the buyer beware. But it's the way the money system works. It's not really a fucking hazard. Like the people have the money. The money already exists in the money supply. Just because there's a run on the bank and they don't have immediate liquidity doesn't mean that the money doesn't exist or that it's going to have any ramifications for the economy. So it's like you're basically fucking all these people, which will probably have more bad ramifications on the economy than not fucking them. It's just it's stupid. It's stupid. Look, and I get it. Look, it's the law of karma. People want people to suffer the whatever they want them to suffer for whatever they do, for whatever indiscretion that they do. They want them to pay the price of their moral indiscretion. So
but you're right, but it's interesting how the karma is viewed, because if you're on the left, you're like, you want to be deferential to the individual person and say the karma should be against the system or the institution. If you're on the right, it's almost like the opposite. You're like, oh, well, the banking institution should get no karma for being deceitful, but the individual person who put their money in the bank should get all the karma.
That's interesting. That is totally interesting. Yeah. Well, they would say that the bank ends up going out of business. You know, Silicon Valley Bank should go out of business. Like if you want to say Silicon Valley Bank should go out of business and the people who put their money there are made whole, like then we're having more of a conversation. So,
well, I think the Silicon Valley Bank it's a bad example because it has that front loaded moral, political nonsense into it, as opposed to like the example that Patrick Boyle gives, which is, you know, someone put their money in they thought it was a bank. It's not a bank, but it was some sort of bank, one of these fintech, not banks, which was like claiming, hey, you know, we'll give you very low interest rates if you put your money in our bank, but there'll be a chance that you can win like $10 million.
Yeah, that was a scam.
That was a scam. And then it turns out like, oh, LOL, we're not really a bank. We took all your money and ran, and we're also not FDIC insured. So, you know, eat shit.
We took all your money, invested it in crypto at the top of the market, and now we don't have enough money to pay you back.
Right. Exactly. So, you know, but, you know, whatever. I don't blame Neocon Sitch. He's a neocon. So obviously, you know, his moral alignment is going to be within the big banks and the big businesses. So. Alex Wright for $5 says, well, Adam, inflation rose to 3% and core inflation rose to 3.3%. So it seems the Fed will hold the rates until September. You're correct.
Is that
Andy?
Is that that must be Ace, right? I was thinking that.
No, that was Alex Wright.
Oh, it was Alex. Okay.
It was Alex. Yeah. He made the bet with you that they would drop the interest rates below 4%.
That's right.
Yeah.
I thought of you when I was listening to the Fed meeting. Yeah.
There you go. Does Alex? Now I know the bet was about whether they do it. I don't know what Alex's opinion is. He Alex in favor of dropping the interest rate?
He was like interest rates would get below 4% or 3% or something like that. I can't remember what the bet was.
It was, you said that you thought the Fed was going to drop interest rates below 4%, and he said they weren't. Right. But I don't know if Alex actually wants them to drop interest rates or not. It was just on whether they would. Zero for $10 says, Adam, about the comic. I got my address set to ship it to a friend of mine that I'm going to be visiting next week. Is there any way to know if mine will be shipped before I visit?
Well, you would have to message me on either Twitter or you can message me through Indiegogo. I don't know how people do that, but I do get messages through Indiegogo. So if you send me a message, I can look into that. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I think it'd be safer to just set it to your home address, not to wherever you're visiting. I mean, that sounds like, I don't know why you want to add that complexity of like trying to time it directly so that when you're like visiting, unless you're visiting them for like a month or something, I don't know why you're doing that. So,
well, he's probably doing it. This is a very smart move. He's like, look, I might get it at the end of the month if my shipment is the last to go out. But if I make this excuse,
oh, I see,
then my shipment goes out tomorrow because I want to get it next week, which is actually, I mean, it's a smooth move. It's a little Cash Patel, but look, I let it slide. Like I'm cool with that. Look, you gave us a $10 super chat. Who am I to complain, right? He gave us $10 for me to ship his comic out a little early. So
right.
Well, I have no way of knowing. Obviously,
show off the cover, the artwork to everyone, to his friends.
Maybe it's more smooth than that. Maybe maybe he's gonna get it. Maybe this is someone who didn't order the comic and is gonna get someone else's comic shipped to them.
Ryan Kuhn for $5 says, I just got my chair. Thanks for the recommended bleeping awesome. Oh, he got the chair you recommended.
Wow, look at that. Okay.
I still got to get that chair.
Well, are you convinced now? Look, that's the
second, third person that's given positive feedback on the chair.
Yeah, look, I have been telling Sitch to get this chair for, it seems like 2 years now.
2 years, ever since LA.
Yeah, and multiple of you guys have got the chair now.
Ryan for $5 says, you really think that the left were going to have any trust in Elon, even if he did do that? I saw a lot of mistrust before Elon did anything. Well, I mean, a lot of the left wouldn't trust him regardless because of all the shit that he posts on Twitter. So I guess you can kind of just keep backtracking and say, well, maybe you should never have posted this crazy shit. But then he probably would never have got the job in the first place. So you're correct in terms of like, yeah, there would be he's definitely going into a situation where people are not going to trust him. But I think if he was doing things that were positively received, I think people would be, maybe cautiously optimistic. Because they're like, well, because here's why I think that would happen. People have this idea, and this comes up. You hear this a lot when people talk about Trump, and they'll say like, oh, well, people shit posts on Twitter. Elon shit posts on Twitter. That doesn't mean it's going to translate into his behavior in real life. And so even if he's shit posting on Twitter, someone's like, oh, hair on fire, Elon's saying all this crazy shit on Twitter. But then he's like in the position and he does a bunch of things that everyone agrees with. It could people could maintain that frame, at least at first, and be like, oh, look, it was just like Twitter shit posting. But now it's kind of like, oh, well, that's not the case.
Yes. Does the left like anyone who's a billionaire? Is that like a thing? Well, I guess they like Soros, right?
Not real. I mean, not really. They don't really like anybody.
Yes.
That's true. Daniel Irish for $5 says, Elon is a billionaire who helped get Trump elected. There was zero chance that the left would trust him no matter where DOGE started. Yes, and as I said, yes and no for the same reasons I said above.
Well, that's why you gotta sell it. You gotta totally sell it, right? You're really talking in the middle, obviously. The left is not gonna trust him, but
Anonymous
curry favor.
Anonymous Coward for $10 says, did you watch John Bolton on Piers Morgan? He mentioned something similar to the last stream about money spent to countries to protect American influence. Unsurprisingly, he glossed over Iranian Sesame Street. I did not watch John Bolton on Piers Morgan. I mean, I kind of don't like John Bolton, but John Bolton's like a massive war hawk, neocon. So I would not be surprised that obviously he wants as much American influence all over the world as much as humanly possible. So,
yeah, I would have to see the content of the Iranian Sesame Street before I really made a decision on whether or not I thought this is good for America or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you've just got Big Bird talking about Jewish people. I don't know. Look, that's probably not a good Sesame Street.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But they're promoting like liberalism.
Yeah, then I'm like, okay, we should be doing that,
individual voting rights. Yeah.
Something tells me that they're not able to do that though, right?
Right.
I mean, I don't necessarily know what they're doing, what kind of propaganda they're doing.
Short Stack Goblin for Terror says the left has become the political contrarian party.
Yes, that's true.
What does that mean? I'm not sure I understand what that means.
Well, so many of them do have, they're reflexively anti whatever Trump is. So Trump takes a position and they take the opposite position, even if it's bad for them, even if it's like shooting themselves in the foot, which look, and this is, I feel like I'm getting deja vu from 2016 again. We're really doing the authoritarian thing. We're really doing the constitutional crisis thing. We're really planning our steps to deal with Hitler.
Yes.
We're so far. Oh God, you look insane. The biggest problem that Democrats have is they've become the party of the boy who cried wolf. And you keep thinking, okay, well, sooner or later you have to stop crying wolf. Okay. But no, they're not.
Yeah.
They're going to continue to cry wolf. Racism, authoritarianism, fascism, wolf, 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 right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. And that definitely, yeah, whatever Trump says, the left is going to take the opposite position 100%. But I feel like it works in both directions because I feel like so much of the right-wing thought process right now is whatever triggers the libs, I'll support. That's how it seems a lot of people at least act on the, maybe not the average Republican voter, but definitely the like.
But is the Republican Party playing that game? I don't think they are.
No, but the Republican Party is playing the game of do whatever Trump says. That's their game.
I think that's more the left narrative of the game that Donald Trump is playing. I think
they pushed back on Trump really at all on anything so far? I mean, I know it's early, but
well, no. The question was about the political strategy that Trump is pursuing.
No. I was just in terms of the question of the Republican Party. I don't view Trump and the Republican Party as the same thing. I view them as like two different forces.
Yeah, I got you. We're
right.
You're thinking of I was thinking Trump's strategy and not the Republican Party.
Yeah, no, Trump. I'm not saying Trump has a different strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. I think. But look, the narrative on the left is that Trump wants people that will do whatever he says, and the Republican Party will do whatever Trump says. So I think it's more like Trump wants to do this 80-20 thing where he's like, I'm going to pick out issues that are like free money, 80% of the public is in favor of, and kind of force the Democrats to take the 20% side and lose, get annihilated, which I think is a good strategy. And there's obviously the Republican Party's going to be down because that's a winning strategy. So it's not like he's strong arming them to do this strategy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't play the clip because we kind of jumped away from it. So I guess I'll just say right here. On Monday, I don't remember if it was you or someone in the chat had asked the question, did I think that Trump was going to go against the court order? And I said, no, I did not think he would. And I was proven completely true because in that conference with Elon, they asked him, are you going to violate the court order? And he said, no, we're going to appeal. So, which I do give credit to Trump because I'm glad that despite JD Vance's like really, it was like kind of true, but also kind of completely untrue in a very blatant way that I think he knew what he's doing. Tweets about trying to say the courts like shouldn't be able to tell the president what he can do, which is like retarded. I'm glad that Trump kind of didn't play into that and just said, no, we're going to listen to the courts and appeal.
They did a good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
JD Vance was like, we should totally ignore that court order. Fuck these people. And Trump is like, no, JD, this is America.
I don't know who
we are a nation of laws.
Right. But the thing with the good cop, bad cop is it's supposed to like influence someone. And I don't, it's not influencing anyone. Because when JD Vance said that, all the right said, yes, King based, and all the left said, oh my God, and then Trump comes out and he's like the good cop. No one on the left says like, oh, Trump's a good cop. Like that's not gonna they're not gonna change their mind. Yeah, I'm an enlightened centrist, motherfucker. Okay, I'm here in the middle here with the free will seekers.
Well, look, I think the independents did hear it.
Maybe.
Look,
I don't know.
This is the thing. This is why this crying wolf strategy. When are they going to start actually playing politics? When are they going to say, look, we need programs. This guy is basically coming up with all of these ways to save people money. He's like trotting out tax cuts for everybody. How do we fucking compete? Like saying, "Oh my God, he's a fascist," when he's cut your taxes in half is not a winning strategy.
Right.
Yeah. When are they going to compete? When are they actually going to step into the ring and say, "Look, these are our programs," right? They used to do that. Look, we're going to give you free health care. Look, we're going to get you into a union. We're going to get your wages up. We're going to raise your wages. I think so many of those programs, though, they just, nobody wants them. So they turn to the fascism because it's like, okay, well, we'll just fearmonger these people to the polls.
Right.
The
Which is not gonna
Wooster.
work. Yeah.
The
The Wooster for
Wooster,
$5 says,
Yeah.
quote, Elon Musk doing some of the most consequential and beneficial public service anyone's ever done. Sitch, this is the worst thing ever. Well, I think the Wooster should change his name to the Straw Man because he's very good at just straw manning people.
You did say multiple times that this is the good stuff. Like he's saying this is the good stuff.
Yeah,
right?
he's saying that Elon Musk getting rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and just cutting all the USAID stuff without giving sufficient evidence is the good stuff.
Well, then why? Look,
that's what he's saying. At least that's the only,
Well,
that's the
why
only way
is it
his
just-
sentence would make any sense. His straw
well,
man
this
would make
should
any
say
sense.
Sitch and Adam then, because I think I'm horrified if we're getting rid of the consumer. I just look. There's going to be some karma in there because there are probably plenty of people that are cheering this on. That as soon as their fucking crypto goes to zero, they're going to like, oh my God, who do I call?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. PC for 2 hours says Elon won't need a pardon because he'll be on the Mars by then. There you
Oh
go.
yeah,
That's
he'll
true.
be king of Mars.
That's a good point. He'll be outside the jurisdiction of the government.
Trump can be his helper.
Brian for $15, thank you. Says to be critical of Elon, I can see him falling into a partisan worldview where he doesn't critically look at claims coming from his camp, impulsively accepting his narrative. His DMs with Asmongold, where he thought editor meant control, was a good example of this. That's a great point. It was like that whole fucking scenario with Elon lying about video games is pretty bizarre. And then, like, yeah, he like thought Asmongold, and I guess that's the thing. Like, was he lying there, or did he just honestly didn't know what the fuck he was talking about? Because after the whole dust up with Asmongold, he like leaked DMs where he was like, "Oh, look, Asmongold's controlled," and it was like, "No, idiot, that's not what the word editor means." That's not what he meant at all. He just meant literally the guy that he gives his YouTube videos to edit. That's what he meant. He didn't mean like his editor from like a newspaper. Like, you're the fucking gamer lord guy, and you're so disconnected, you don't know what the fuck that meant.
All of this stuff though is completely inconsequential though. And I go back to Elon's algorithm where if it's something important, if it's something serious, you've got to question every single step. So it's hard for me to imagine that he's not going to start looking at the important stuff critically.
Yeah, but here's where I think you're getting tripped up is that you're right. Like, in the grand scheme of things, Elon lying about video games, Elon being wrong about the condoms, Elon being wrong about whatever, right? You can say like, well, on each individual level, those claims don't really matter. And that's true. But what it does show is it shows his process of looking at the world, his process of understanding the world and, investigating information is heavily flawed. That's what it shows. And I think that's where the red flag is.
Obviously looking into things takes time though.
Of course.
It's flawed from a perspective of truth. I don't know that it's flawed from a perspective of pragmatism, of the time-saving element.
No, but that's the issue. It's not like, you're completely correct. Looking into things and investigating things takes time. And so we're not in the situation, we're not in the timeline where Elon Musk is like, oh, we're going to look into USA, we're going to look into the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, we're going to look into XYZ. And then a month, 2 months later, they start making decisions. No, they're going at like lightning speed, just cutting things left and right. And it's like, okay, obviously none of these things are being investigated because there's no time to do the investigations.
If the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is completely cut and there's not an extremely explicit rationale for doing it, it's like, that's the line. Like, obviously, I think then you can start saying,
Right.
like, Elon's doing tangible damage and not much good. I mean, people are screaming about how much good he's done, but I mean, I'm going to wait and see what the final tally is. Yeah.
Sure. That's fair. Through the wormhole for 2 hours says Elon literally lied about his skills as a gamer.
Yeah, look, that is obviously that's completely inconsequential in the whole scheme of things, right?
Right.
But whatever. I mean,
Fondue for $5 says, Adam, you end up swimming in liars when you create an environment where lying isn't a big deal. Also, I'm looking forward to the comic.
well, sweet. I'm glad you
true,
got the
but
comic. Yeah, look, I guess I just take it from there are a lot of people who, I guess it's called talking your book. Are you familiar with this term? It's like
No.
a sales term. You're like, it's you engage in hyperbole because you're trying to sell somebody on something, right?
Right.
And that's the gray area between actual lies and just sales.
Right.
And look, I get a lot of people this is why people hate fucking salesmen. And this is why there is the stereotype about the used car salesman. The used car salesman is going to lie to you. I think lying is obviously crossing the line, but you butt into a bunch of situations where people are they don't know they're lying. They're sharing information that's untrue, but they think it's true. Like, how do you condemn somebody for that, Sitch? Look, you're more likely to condemn someone for that than me. I'm like,
right.
Grace.
No, I just want people to be honest. I don't like this hyperbole bullshit. It's so easy for people to rationalize anything, to rationalize any lie, any hyperbole they want to tell.
Right.
Oh my God, for 2 hours says, which family has the hottest members, Biden's or the Trumps? Well, I mean, I think obviously the Trumps.
It's the Trump, yes, hands down.
Boba Peck for $10 says, I saw an IG clip that looks like the kid tells Trump he isn't the real president. And another one where he says, I want to shut your fucking mouth during a hot mic. You guys notice those. Okay. So.
Are those fake?
Well, I didn't see the real president one. I did see the shut your effing mouth one. And I thought he was talking to a reporter. I didn't think he was talking to Trump. But I tried listening to it like 5 or 10 times yesterday. And I couldn't really make out what he was saying. So,
well, speaking of making out, I saw one of him making out with the king of Jordan. So,
Trump?
Trump was, yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Looks pretty real.
Wow.
Like,
Okay.
what?
So yeah, I couldn't really figure out what it's like. One of those things, the whole like Yanni Laurel situation,
where
you kind of like
yeah,
can't really clearly make out what someone's saying, and it's very easy to like fill it in with your mind. So I don't think I'm gonna guess that Elon Musk kid didn't tell Trump to shut his fucking mouth. I'm gonna guess that did happen, but I could be wrong. I did see he picked his nose a bunch during the whole thing, but I guess that's allowed.
Who did? Trump?
The little kid. No, Elon's kid. Yeah.
Oh yeah, nose picking.
Yeah, nose picking is allowed. Brian for $5 says the rule of the FDIC insurance is stated to cover $250K. The government should follow their own rules. Zero for $2 says my home address.
I completely disagree with that rule. I think that rule is from this is a holdover rule from when there was a gold standard, and it's totally fucking unnecessary now.
Yeah, I don't know what effect it would have if they changed the rule. But
Zero.
Zero for $2 says my home address changes, my friend's address doesn't. Oh
yeah, look, I get that. When I was young, I moved around a ton. I always sent stuff to my folks' address. So
right.
Yeah, no problem. Hit me up.
J-Mac.
Look, send me a message, or you haven't sent me a message yet, or send me a message on Twitter. So
J-Mac, thanks so much for Surrogate Father for the $50. Says, hey, with the comic shipping, any news on putting Adam through the hardcore gauntlet? I'd hate for Adam to suffer more than he already has, but think of the content.
Oh my God, I'm suffering like crazy.
We're still
now.
gonna do that. We're still gonna do that.
Yeah. So look, I have to mail out like 1,600 packages.
We'll give Adam some time to recover and recuperate, and then we'll just annihilate him.
Like my goal is to send out 100 packages a day, and I mean, oh my God, that's massive.
It's a lot of work.
I realize how massive that is.
Yeah. Yep.
And So even if I could send 100 packages a day, I mean, that's still 16 days, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I haven't got my 100 packages for today yet.
Yeah, this is what JMac's talking about, in case you don't recall, is making Adam play hardcore vanilla WoW for
But
at least
look,
a day.
So. I want to do more fun stuff. Like, obviously this is like, we're in a transitional period. We're kind of trying to figure out what's going on with the Trump administration. Like, is it going to be a great thing, or is it going to be a total bust? So obviously that news is interesting. Something Sitch and I
hopefully
both
things
are
will
following.
calm down at some point.
Yeah, but look, I want to talk about movies and shit. I need
Right.
I think Sitch should watch Severance, so we can talk about Severance.
I'll watch Severance. Been watching Invincible.
Invincible's good, right? It's on season 2 now. I think I watched
on season 3 now.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. I have mixed feelings about Invincible. But anyway.
I like the first season a lot.
Actually, for $5 says, thanks for putting the clip in. So what do you think the core of his argument is? I think I'm getting a very different argument than you are. The core of it. So there's his actual argument, and then there's his front argument, which is a lie. Okay. So his lying argument that he's proposing is that the CFPB is bad because it's debanking people for political reasons, which is what he very clearly stated or lied about. His actual argument is that he is involved in a lot of crypto shit. He is involved in a lot of this fintech shit, and he doesn't like those regulations basically preventing him from competing with the big banks. Okay?
And he could be Sam Bankman-Fried for all we know. We don't fucking know.
Right. And so that's why I said the issue is, if he wanted to be, if he said this, I'd have so much more, like, if he didn't lie about the debanking thing, he just said, I understand that you need to have regulations so that, people can, make sure that they're not getting swindled. There have been a lot of people that have lost money in crypto, in fintech, and all that stuff. But there's too much regulation so that no one can create new banks, no one can compete with the original banks, and all the big banks are going to merge into like some giant conglomeration. If he just said that very clearly, I'd be like, oh, that's a completely fair point. But he doesn't say that. He makes up a lie about debanking, and then he totally just like, oh, they're all bad. All these regulations are bad, period. And they just terrorize us. And it's like, anyone that has this completely one-sided view of something like that is not a trustworthy individual, especially if they're so heavily financially invested in it. Like, why would you trust someone who's basically the guy who's trying to sell you the products? Obviously, they're not going to like the government's regulation on the products he's trying to sell.
People in the chat are saying debanking does happen. I think people did get kicked off of PayPal.
Hold on. I never at any point in this stream said debanking doesn't happen. Debanking does happen.
I know.
I just want to be clear to someone who's confused in chat. Debanking does happen. We actually talked about it a lot. And actually, I talked about it before the stream years ago when Patreon kicked off Carl, which I guess isn't debanking, but is a similar situation, right? And Lauren Sutter.
I brought up Patreon.
Right.
Patreon and PayPal. Yes.
And actually, we have talked about this in the past where I said I think it was wrong for Nick Fuentes to be debanked. Okay. I don't care. I know he's a white nationalist and a piece of shit, but I don't think anyone should be debanked for any of their political opinions. 100% against that.
The problem that he has is using debanking as an excuse for Sam Bankman-Frieds of the world to take a bunch of money and steal it from people.
Well, yeah, my problem is him saying that the CFPB has something to do with debanking when it's the opposite. CFPB is literally trying to stop the banks from debanking, and he's lying about it.
So there's going to be more debanking now that they've killed it. Yeah.
There very well could be. MA566 for $5 says the left crying about the Gulf of America and reporting the name to Google is proof that they'll read about anything. Well, that's the contrarian. Yeah, that's the contrarian element of it. So, Fondue for $5 says if the Dems were able to pivot, a lot of people would not have become right wing.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, they are trying. It's really weird if you watch the majority reports that Kyle Kalinski's and all those people to check in. They view the Democrats as pivoting right now in terms of some of the Democrats coming out against woke stuff, some of the Democrats not being so hair on fire about everything Trump's doing. So I don't know. I think the pivot's coming. I think it's really going to depend on how successful Trump's and Elon's moves are. If they're very successful, I think you will see a lot of Democrats pivot. If they're not successful, maybe they won't pivot because then they'll just be able to fall back on like attacking Trump again. So we'll see. I think we're still up in the air here. Alex Wright for $5 says, well, Adam, when Republicans cut Medicaid and SNAP by hundreds of billions in reconciliation and millions lose their health care, it will give Democrats an issue in 2026.
It will if that actually happens. So,
yes,
but if that doesn't happen and Trump has come out explicitly and said, we're not going to cut Medicare, we're not going to cut Medicaid, we're not cutting Social Security, we're not cutting any of these programs, right? I realize that the left doesn't believe him, but as soon as he doesn't, like if Elon Musk goes through and is able to cut hundreds of billions because it's literal fraud going to foreign countries, okay, and they do cut it by hundreds of billions, but nobody loses their health care, then all of a sudden the Democrats are again the party that cried wolf, and they will get slaughtered in 26.
Right. Completely. Yeah.
Yeah. They will pin all of that fraud onto the Democrats. They will say, this is how the Democrats steward your money.
J-Mac for $20. Thanks so much. Circuit Father says, don't forget, I was debanked by USAA as well. Wow.
That's horrible.
That's crazy.
Yes.
Well, there you go.
I've never been debanked, but God, that would be so embarrassing. We pull up the live stream. Is this you? Are you the Adam in this Sitch and Adam travesty? You think these jokes are funny? My daughter is transgender.
There you go. R. Leach for $2 says, are you going to cover the actual Justice Warrior versus Pisco debate?
No. Oh my God. That's hilarious. I'm going to watch it. We might cover it.
Of course we're going to cover it.
Oh my God.
What do you mean? Of course we will.
Maybe. I don't know. Just,
I mean, if it's good.
Pisco's not. Yeah.
That's not good. We won't cover it. So this is in the, I know Sean's doing some IRL debate coming up. I didn't know he was debating Pisco.
Oh, is this with modern day debate, James?
Is it? I'm assuming that's what they're talking about. So
James is one of the few people on YouTube that I don't think could screw over anyone. He seems like a completely genuine guy. Most of the time you meet people in this space and they're not like me and Sitch.
Right.
Like they're more like Pisco. Who want to just screw you over at a moment's notice because you thought about voting for Trump one time.
It used to be not so erudite, but she dropped out. Oh, okay. Because I thought I was like, I thought it was her, but that's interesting.
Why did she drop out?
I don't know, but
Steven got her pregnant.
She had the paper abortion. Listen.
Oh my God, you took it up to the next level.
For whatever the reason, I'm glad. I'd much prefer to see Sean debate Pisco than not so erudite. So
Pisco's like not. I mean, he's not really a draw though. That's the thing.
Right.
Oh my God, he would destroy not so erudite though. Oh, that would be comical.
Unless it wouldn't even. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what it'd be. I don't even know what the topic is. What's the topic? Do we know?
I don't know, but
look,
I rarely disagree with Sean, but I can't imagine debating him on anything. Like he'd just destroy me.
Right.
Sean is quick, and he's quick with the thing that I'm not quick with, and that's like the statistics and the receipts and all that shit, right? He's constantly able to he's got like a Rolodex of all these all these studies and surveys and shit.
They're debating Biden's policies versus Trump's policies. I mean,
oh my God,
is that a good debate? So I mean, Trump's only been president. I know a lot's happened, but Trump's been president for like a month, right, or less. Like, is that a really good debate? Like topic? I don't know. Whatever. We'll check it out. I'm sure it'll be fun. Solid for JR says, I want to correct something I sent a super chat last week. I don't support Hezbollah, but I since found out they don't target Christians. And unfortunately, polls show most Christians in Lebanon support them. Wow. That's not good. The support, that is. Asif Artsy, thanks so much for the $11. Says, A, Democrats complaining about Trump-Musk administration after 4 years of anonymous staffing managing President Biden in the country is so rich, DOGE should probably inspect it. And B, transparency only works for what they do. If the Pentagon buys SpaceX missiles for twice their price and DOGE ignores it, it won't show anywhere. I think those are both very good points. Because, I mean, yeah, you could say, like, where was the transparency? And basically, Joe Biden was being, what's it called? Weekend at Bernie's around, right? For 4 years. And then at the same token, if there is some like sketchy shit going on with the Pentagon or whomever doing stuff, you know, if DOGE is the organization and they're not showing it, like, then how's anyone going to find out about it in the first place? So, no, those are good points.
Yep.
Anyways.
All right, that's it. Nice.
Oh, wait. The Jack of Some Trades for 22 months. Thank you so much. Says, hey, boys, my work schedule usually keeps me from listening, but I finally got to use one of my super chats. That's all. Well, thank you for checking in.
So everybody, make sure that your address is correct on Indiegogo. If you have problems, you can always message me on Twitter. I think you can message me through the Indiegogo platform. So just make sure your address is correct, because I'm trying to ship out 100 packages a day. And if your package is in that 100 packages with the wrong address, it's going to make Sitch cry, and we don't want to make Sitch cry.
It is going to make me cry.
How are those drawings coming along? I wanted to send those out first because everyone is... But I'm still waiting on drawings from Sitch.
I'm drawing. Okay, I'm drawing your little drawings. Don't worry.
So we've got 30 drawings. The drawings have officially been sold out. So you missed your opportunity to get an original Sitch drawing.
Oh my God, so sad. So sad.
Well, I got one. I got one for myself, obviously.
There you go.
So
I'm gonna have to draw like a lewd one and send it to you to send the Sammy. So you gotta make sure you send it to the right person. I don't want some random person be like, why did I get a lewd Sitch drawing? What the fuck is this? They're going to get me for sexual harassment. I'm like, Adam, you're supposed to send it to Sammy.
Well, luckily, Sitch is going to send me 30 drawings because I'm doing all the shipping. So when I get the one with like the big cock and balls, that's supposed to be mine, intended for me as a joke, I'm just going to turn around and send that to one of you guys. You guys can have that one. I'm going to keep the good one for myself.
There you go. There you go.
So look, now 30 of them are going to have cock and balls.
There you go. If anyone gets a Sitch drawing with cock and balls, I want you to know Adam added that. It's not me. He added the little cock and balls. Okay.
Don't blame it on me. No. Alex Wright for $5 says, they've already released the markup for reconciliation. It is not a secret where those cuts will be. Look at the menu of cuts House Republicans put out. So, well, we'll put Sitch in charge of looking into that.
Oh, I gotta look it up. Okay.
The Medicare cuts.
I mean,
I might ask ChatGPT. Look, Alex, send me a link to what you're reading. I'd love to check it out. Look, and if you're right, you're right. I'm not in favor of the right completely eviscerating government programs that people need.
Right.
But if there's a bunch of waste, fraud, and abuse, I say cut it. Like, I don't want some wife who has her husband makes 6 figures and she's in her fucking swimming pool 3 days a week signing up to a bunch of government programs. Nobody does.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, we're wrapping up. Anything else, Sitch? Or I guess we're talking on Sunday.
Yes. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for incredibly generous donations, and we'll see you all Sunday.
Update those addresses. Another fucking show like this.
I don't know if that